Welcome back to the channel. This is Trendy Storm and you are watching second and final part of what if could not receive Minato's letter before Academy. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Always wasting no more time. Let's start the story.
Tsunade asks, "Is there anything else you need, Sasuke?" Knowing exactly what he wants, Sasuke has been requesting a promotion to Junin for the past 2 months. "You know what I want, Lady Hokage," Sasuke says in his typically solemn tone. "I have completed every assignment handed to me, including a rank solo missions. In reality, only one other shinobi in the village is as qualified as Sasuke, and that is Naruto. Despite his loyalty and ability to work with anyone, Naruto lacks the maturity to take the mission situation seriously. Unlike Sasuke, who did so and was a capable leader, he is unable to adapt to the shortcomings of teammates he does not know. I'm working on it, Sasuke. The council likes to promote 6 shinobi, 3 boys and 3 girls." Tsunade responds. "Right now you and Naruto are on the top of the list, but until others start to step up I can't guarantee you being promoted, sadly. If it were only up to me then I would promote you," she continues. Without seeming overly impressed, he says, "Thanks. I guess I'll take my leave," he says, turning to go. As she returns her focus to her work, Tsunade lets out an exasperating sigh at Sasuke's attitude. In the hospital, as Sakura applied her healing jutsu to Naruto's wound, he sat on the examination gurney. As a genin, Naruto recovered more quickly, but as his jutsu grew stronger and more sophisticated, he would draw on the Nine Tails chakra, which would lead to disastrous outcomes. Kushina tightened the seal completely to stop any of the fox's chakra from leaking out. He consequently lost all of the traits and characteristics he had inherited from the fox, such as his quick regeneration and faded whiskers. When her touch reaches the worst areas of his wound, Naruto flinches and complains, "Your hands are freezing." Sakura then taps him hard on the top of his head for disrupting her focus. He growls, confirming her plans. "If you hold still then it will be over and we can go get breakfast," she says. She giggles a little when he mumbles, "Traitor," to his stomach, and 10 minutes later, his wound is professionally rebandaged. After they leave the hospital, Naruto gently takes her hand and pulls her to his side. He assured her that they would maintain a professional demeanor while working together, but as soon as they are free, they start acting like a couple. Since she suggested it, he assumes she has plans and asks, "So where are we going?" She points down the street where she wants to go and responds, "There is a cafe not too far from here where I go on my lunch that I have been meaning to show you." The two teenagers walk hand in hand to the restaurant after he says, "Sounds good to me, I'm starving." In the meantime, when Sasuke enters his girlfriend's flower shop, he notices that she is grinning as the customer turns to go. Ino's eyes meet his, and she exclaims, "You're back," before rushing up to embrace him. He blushes as he hears some older women exclaim, "Ah." As she lets go of him, he responds, "Yeah, we got back last night. I was wondering if you had the time to go to lunch with my parents this afternoon?" He asks, and she nods, her face lighting up. She takes off her apron and says, "Yeah, I'm free for the rest of the day since my mother is working in the shop and Asuma-sensei and the others are off on missions." Sasuke then notices her bandaged hand. She looks at the ground anxiously as he takes it gently. As he examines the wrist, he asks in a harsh, protective tone, "What happened?" As her free hand lightly strokes the silk, Ino responds nonchalantly, "It was my own fault. I didn't pay attention to my surroundings and I fell," she says. After giving her a quick glance, Sasuke brings her hand to his lips and gives it a gentle kiss, which makes Ino's face flush. They hear a swoon and turn to see Ino's mother clutching her chest, lost in her thoughts about their future marriage and her future grandchildren. "Okay, but be more careful in the future. I don't know how I survive without you," he says, and she leans in to kiss him. Sasuke hides his own blush as Ino pushes him out of the store and yells, "Mom," in an embarrassed tone. In the meantime, Sakura is sitting at a large table that can only accommodate 2 people, and Naruto can tell by the sly expression in Sakura's eyes that danger is nearby. I wonder how long until our food gets here," he says, attempting to strike up a conversation as Sakura looks over his right shoulder. Sakura smiles slightly and says, "I told them to wait until our quest arrives." Naruto quickly learns the reason behind her behavior when a hand tightens its hold on his shoulder and all of the warmth leaves his body and soul. He turns his head grudgingly, aware of this sensation, and is met by his mother, who shares Sakura's cunning gaze. Naruto's shrill voice utters, "Hey mom," as she sits next to Sakura following their embrace. He remarks, "I see you two met." In perfect unison, the 2 women yell, "I can't believe you would lie to keep me from meeting your girlfriend, mother," while maintaining the same posture and pose. A little gulp sound came out of Naruto's mouth as his mind searched for words to construct a sentence that would dictate how and where he would eat his breakfast. He gradually realizes how similar their personalities are and smiles in his head as he starts to explain, I just wanted the timing to be perfect. His eyes calm slightly, but he still wants more. Well, our anniversary is coming up and I wanted to introduce you then so it would be a part of our special day. Because you are both the most important people in my life, he says earnestly. Kushina appears to calm down, but Sakura is more skeptical and chooses to drop this. For the time being. He says, anyway, can we eat? I'm so hungry, and the waiter shows up with the menus almost immediately. Later, at noon Neji and Tenten searched a vacant room filled with boxes and discovered a medium-sized apartment that was ideal for a young couple. It had 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, sitting area, and a bathroom. Tenten grinned broadly and gave her boyfriend a hug, saying, it's perfect. Her boyfriend had discovered it this morning and bought it as a surprise. I can't believe we have a home to ourselves, she continued. After learning the truth about his father's sacrifice, Neji says, I know. A perfect place to begin a new life away from the clan. He adds that he now has greater faith in the main branch of the family. When Hiyashi approached him 6 months ago with a deal that would spare his children from the fate of the clan's cursed seal, Neji immediately agreed to do whatever it took, but only on the condition that Hinata and her younger sister Hanabi be taught the Hyuga clan's techniques. He detested the idea of his children sharing his fate if they were born with the clan's Dujutsu, the Byakugan. The clan elders strongly opposed this deal, arguing that all main houses should be branded. Nevertheless, they reluctantly agreed because they didn't want to start a fight that would make them appear weak, especially in light of the fact that Uchiha was a strong contender to succeed Tsunade in the event that she retired. Neji observed that Hinata was holding back during their training sessions, allowing Hanabi to overtake her. Hiyashi assumed this was because Hanabi was more self-assured and driven to succeed than Hinata, but Neji saw that Hinata's true motivation was to shield her younger sister from the cursed seal. Hiyashi concluded that Neji should only instruct Hanabi because he thought she would be his heir. We should start unpacking. Neji starts out. I need to head back to the compound for Hanabi's training, says he. Tenten smiles and Neji nods, and the two start moving boxes into the larger bedroom that will serve as the master bedroom. Okay, let's start with the bedroom for now and finish the rest tomorrow. In the meantime, as they make their way to the meeting spot, where Shino and Kurenai-sensei are waiting, Kiba and Hinata stroll hand in hand. I still can't believe Neji and Tenten are living together, says Kiba. When Hinata considers leaving her father's sight, even if it means getting the cursed seal, she smiles. She was aware that he loved Hanabi and her, but he was overburdened with his duties as the head of the clan. In addition, the Uchiha clan, its chief political rival, Fugaku Uchiha, and the Konoha military police force were also involved. Not to mention his sons, Sasuke, one of the village's 3 saviors and the year's top genin, and his older brother Itachi Uchiha, who left the academy at age 7 and enrolled in Anbu at age 12. She knows very little about him other than the fact that he is probably the next Hokage. It was difficult for the Hyuga to receive any attention by those standards. She thinks Neji should lead the clan even though he is not a member of the main house, but she knew this was unlikely. As they turn a corner and see Shino standing by himself beneath a tree, Hinata remarks, Tenten is so excited about the new apartment and she is having a housewarming party when they are fully moved in and settled. Morning Shino. Hinata smiles, and Shino nods. Kiba asks, what has you so down? As he hears his normally icy best friend let out a faint sigh. Shino says, my parents are planning an arranged marriage for me, and his teammates' eyes enlarge a little. But I was able to persuade them to put the plans on hold until I get promoted to Junin, he adds. As Kurenai shows up, Kiba asks, so you bought yourself some time, huh? And Shino nods. She starts to go into great detail when she says, okay, this is a B-ranked escort mission. Lunch sitting across from his son and next to his beaming wife, Fugaku inquires, so Ino, is your father well? I haven't seen him around the interrogation bureau, he adds. He has been handling the training of the clan's jutsu. Ino clarifies, however he told me to tell you that he would be bringing them to police station so they could meet a few experienced interrogators on their break, she goes on. Fugaku requests confirmation on, when will they be coming, so that he can put it on his calendar. Wednesday, is her response as she takes a sip of her tea. Sasuke takes a sip of his tea and looks at his girlfriend, who just had a very sexual conversation with his father. Makoto asks, dear, didn't you need Sasuke's help with an investigation? Sasuke is instantly drawn to this since Fugaku would typically turn to Itachi for assistance. Yes, when you are finished with UT could you accompany me to the station? Fugaku asks, and Sasuke nods. Makoto has done a good job of hiding her true intentions since they have already gotten past Sasuke, but he knew that the only reason she brought it up now was to keep Sasuke and Ino apart so that she and Ino could covertly arrange the wedding and give names to the future children. Sasuke finishes his tea, kisses Ino on the cheek, and whispers something to her, making her pale. He smirks as he gets up and follows his father out, saying, "I'll help in any way I can." Makoto asks inquisitively, "What did he say?" as Ino's color returns. Ino says, "If we want to plan his future, we need to find the book with all our notes in it." As they turn to face Sasuke, they see him grinning evilly through a window before he leaves, leaving the girls to growl in rage. Impressed by his son's strategies to retaliate against Makoto and Ino, Fugaku inquires, "How long have you known what they were up to?" "I found the book in Ino's room and decided to play dumb until it was filled with detail, then I took it from Mom's hiding spot," he says. Sasuke shakes his head when Fugaku asks, "Have you read it?" "Why?" he asks. "Because it's a book filled with what Ino wants, and if I use it then I'm cheating her out of the boyfriend I really am." Sasuke clarifies, "I really like her. Maybe even love her, but I need to tell her my way," when he finishes. Fugaku remarks, "You truly are your mother's son," and the two make their way to the station in silence. Later that night after he brought Kushina home, Sakura asked Naruto to meet her atop Hokage Mountain. As a kunoichi, she was thinking about her future with Naruto as she stood there looking down at the village, but when she heard footsteps, she turned to see Naruto staring at her. Knowing what this was about, he says softly, "Hey, look, I know you're upset with me," he starts to say, but she interrupts him. She continues, "I mean, do you know how that makes me feel, Naruto? I feel like you are ashamed of me." With a similar low voice, "I'm not mad. I'm hurt," she says, letting a few tears fall from her eyes. "You lied to your mom and me to keep us from meeting," she adds, feeling weak in her legs. "I love you so much that I was afraid to risk anything in case it might change our relationship for the worse." Naruto says, "I wanted to," and he stops seeing her puffy pink cheeks and small smile. "That's the furthest thing from the truth, Sakura," he says with genuine concern. Sakura's eyes open slightly when she says, You just said you love me." Unlike the previous times they've spoken, this time it was open-hearted and pure love. "That's all you needed to say," she says, rushing into an embrace and pressing her face against his chest. "I love you, Naruto Namikaze," she says. He responds, "I love you, Sakura Haruno," and they kiss while both of them are glowing from the setting sun. They part ways, and Sakura exhales joyfully as she looks into her boyfriend's eyes and says, "I wish I didn't, but Lady Tsunade wants me for something." He grins as she laughs and gives him a final kiss, leaving the blonde alone to watch the sun set fully before leaving for home. "It's cool, just let her know that I'm your biggest priority," he says. After 2 days a familiar face was waiting for them in the road, yawning as usual, and they learned that Gaara had been named the 5th Cage of the Sand. He and his brother and sister had come to the village to sign the peace treaty between the two villages, which would be his first official act as Cage, and he was nervous despite his normally calm demeanor. As they pause to greet him, Kankuro grins and says, "I'm glad to see you're so enthusiastic about our arrival, Shikamaru." Shikamaru nods as Tamari approaches him. "Why do you always serve as our guide? Because you think everything else is a drag?" she asks sarcastically. She says, teasing him a little in an attempt to get a response. "And the make shinobi are weirded out by a girl with more testosterone than them, which is a step up from what they thought you were before," Shikamaru says, eliciting a drop of perspiration from Tamari and Kankuro and the customary lack of response from Gaara. Mostly because most of the female shinobi find Gaara to be cute and Kankuro to be creepy. He almost smiles as Tamari asks, "And what did they think before?" As he watches her flush with shame and rage, he smirks and says, "They thought you were a shinobi that dressed to confuse your opponents." Angrily, Tamari exclaims, "Just take us to the Hokage Tower, because he has one on her." Although there was no problem with trust between the villages, Shikamaru explains that Naruto will be waiting at the Hokage's office. "He is your official guide for your stay but is busy right now, so I will accompany you to her office," he says. It seemed courteous to have a guide assist the Cages in getting around the village. Gaara nods, "Okay. Then take us there so I can sign the peace treaty," he says, and Shikamaru nods. They walk silently to Tsunade's office, barely speaking, and as they get to the door, they hear Naruto and Tsunade finish a conversation. Crossing his arms, Naruto declares, "I don't like the idea of people finding out. People will look at me differently," he adds in a grumpy huff. As the new Cage and his entourage enter, Tsunade says, "Glad to see you made a Cage," with a slight smile. "I get that, but you have to consider the royalties, Fro." She stops when the door is knocked on. "Come in," Naruto, we will pick this up later. As Temari and Kankuro stand on opposite sides of Gaara, and Naruto and Shikamaru stand on opposite sides of Tsunade, Gaara says courteously, "Thank you for the warm welcome, but I hope I don't have to stay any longer than necessary. I have a lot of work back at my village." As Gaara signs, Tsunade adds, "Once you sign this, it will be sent to the offices of the feudal lords of wind and fire to be authorized. The form proves the alignment of our villages," she adds. As the two Kages continue to go over the conditions of the peace treaty, Naruto asks, "So when are you guys heading back?" "In 3 days, Kankuro explains. All the roads leading to the village have been shut down due to a massive sandstorm." Naruto remarks, "You must get a lot of sandstorms." The village hidden by sand, so it's to be expected," says Temari. "But the weather makes our genin strong. Of course I'm sure the sun offers something too." She giggles. Temari sighs and Shikamaru grins as Naruto exclaims, "Yeah, check out my awesome tan," displaying his darkened forearm. "Of course your village's genin may be tanned, or just dirty," he adds. Shikamaru glares at him and says, "Just admit he got you. Anyway, since you're staying for a while, do you want me to show you around?" Temari smirks. Shikamaru blushes a little when Temari says, "I know my way around well enough, but you can tag along if you admit this is a date." Temari smiles and Naruto chuckles as Shikamaru says, "Fine, it's a date." Naruto sarcastically asks the puppet user, "Don't you admire the professionalism between those two, Kankuro?" And the user smiles. With an equally sarcastic tone, Kankuro responds, "These two fine people have definitely demonstrated the perfect mannerisms in how to act during a peace treaty signing." As she puts the treaty in an envelope and hands it to Naruto, Tsunade tells him to simmer down. "Make sure this gets to Kakashi since he will be leading a team of Junin to bring this to the feudal lord," she says, and Naruto nods before heading out. He asks the two boys, Kankuro ga, Kage, "Will you be heading anywhere?" And they depart together, with Temari and Shikamaru following. "There's a shop that sells these nice boots and since this is a date you can buy them for me," Temari said, grinning, as she parted ways with her brothers and turned to face Shikamaru. Temari smiles broadly as Shikamaru asks, "What? Why'd I have to buy you something just because it's a date?" Shikamaru groans but nods when she says, "Because boys are supposed to spoil girls." After 2 weeks as Naruto's 18th birthday approaches, Tsunade holds a letter from Minato in her hand. Since it was addressed to her, the current Hokage, she opened it. The first paragraph gave her an overview of his previous correspondence and updated her on his circumstances, but the second paragraph is where things start to get interesting. "Like before, if my instructions are followed, then Naruto is almost 18. As you should know, the Namikaze clan were a merchant clan with few ever showing the skills to become shinobi and none ever graduating from the academy. That's why it was a big deal when I did. The compound would have emptied after my death and should still be vacant now, as my heir Naruto is entitled to the compound and all remaining funds owed to the Namikaze clan." Tsunade thinks as she reads the rest of the letter that Naruto will be coming into some serious money, because the receipts in the letter proved that the feudal lord and all the clans in the village who received tools would be receiving them. "Also instruct Naruto to go to the middle of my head on Hokage Mountain. Only he who has received my jutsu training will be able to see the gift I gave him for his 18th birthday." From Minato Namikaze, the 4th Hokage. Over the course of the following week, she sends letters to each clan leader instructing them to come to the clan head chambers, which served as a neutral venue for resolving conflicts between clans. "I should organize a meeting of the clan leaders," she thinks, "but this will be a nuisance." During the 3 weeks, Naruto's hair was cut back to its spiky style, with jaw-length bangs framing his face on either side, similar to his father's but thinner. He concluded that maintaining long hair was too much work. He heard his girlfriend saying, "Happy birthday, Naruto," as he entered Tsunade's office. He greets Sakura, kisses her, and says, "I stopped by your house but your mom said you were already out." She hears a sad tone in his voice as he explains, "Oh, and your dad is buying me a bottle of sake for my birthday present." He sounds more animated. Sakura sighs and reaches into her pouch to retrieve a small box. She hands it to him, and when he opens it, she sees a gold identity bracelet with Naruto on the front and their anniversary on the back. "I remember how you said you wanted jewelry," Sakura says, and Naruto gives her another kiss. As she puts it on for him, he says, "It's perfect," and she gives him a hug before heading to the hospital. Tsunade hands him the letter and says, "Anyway, Naruto, this is why I summoned you." Naruto reads it quickly, and his eyes widen a little. Naruto responds, "This is what we were discussing 3 weeks ago. Why didn't you just show me the letter? May I ask?" he asks. She says, "Turn the page over," and he does. "I wanted to wait until it was your birthday," Tsunade responds. A present. For me, he says with a hint of excitement, but in reality, even though his life has improved since reading that letter from his father 11 years ago, he still finds it difficult to celebrate his birthday because it was the day that his father and many shinobi perished. As Tsunade starts to draw Naruto's attention, he nods and sighs. Why don't you go see your friends and hang out before the meeting since most of them will be there? You will need to be there. It's time people found out who you are, she says, and he nods once more before heading out. I've summoned the clan heads to disguise these last wishes from Minato. 7:59 p.m. Naruto spent the day with his friends celebrating his birthday. He learned that Sasuke, Itachi, Neji, Hinata and Hanabi, Choji, Shikamaru, Kiba, Ino, and Shino would be attending this meeting as heirs to the village clans, with the exception of Neji, who was going to be one of Tsunade's guards, along with Rock Lee, Tenten, and Sakura as a neutral witness. This made him anxious because he decided to see what his father had left behind. He scanned the fourth head on the wall and discovered a red rectangle box. When he opened it, he removed a white coat with flames at the bottom. It was exactly like Minato's Hokage coat, but without the kanji on the back. The meeting started when the village elders took a seat across from the Hokage and all of the clan leaders had taken their designated seats. Fugaku said, Sasuke, Itachi, observe everything because one day one of you will be doing this, and his sons nodded. As Tsunade entered the room, the other clan heads said something along these lines. What is Lady Hokage all about? Danzo asks in a frustrated tone. This is very unconventional. In actuality, he hated Tsunade, and vice versa. There are some perplexed looks when Tsunade says, it's about this letter. She goes on to say, it's from Minato the fourth Hokage, and several people in the room gasp. When he died, everything that he owned should have gone to his wife and child. Sume Inuzuka, who was close friends with Kushina and lamented her passing, claims, but Tsunade, Kushina, and the baby died that day along with him. Perhaps Minato didn't know that they died, Hiyashi suggests. I mean, no one knows what happened to her, but there was no body, according to him. Shikaku, the father of Shikamaru's and the leader of the Nara clan, states, that wasn't the kind of man Minato was. His intellect rivaled mine, he knew they'd survive, he continues. Why haven't they come forward, though? I mean 18 years later. Surely she has moved on with the baby and are living somewhere else. Choji's father and Choza, the leader of the Akamichi clan, inquire. A few people gasp when Tsunade explains that Kushina has been living in this village for years using Minato's last name. Because he was known by Yondaime Hokage, Sensei, and Yellow Flash, only his students and teacher knew his true name because the records of the Hokage's names were destroyed when the building was destroyed during the attack. All right, so who is her child if she has been going by his name? Fugaku asks, and Sakura gasps aloud after figuring things out. Her gasp draws attention, and she looks at Tsunade, who nods and smiles and says, her child is a boy. Named. She is interrupted by the door opening, and because of the outside room's brightness, all anyone can see is a silhouette of a figure that exactly resembles Minato's coat and all. Minato. As the light fades and Naruto emerges, shocking the room, Danzo says, getting to his feet. When it is revealed that Naruto is the second generation of Yellow Flash of the Leaf and the son of the fourth Hokage, he stands ready to see how the clan leaders and his friends will respond. The meeting started when the village elders took a seat across from the Hokage and all of the clan leaders had taken their designated seats. Fugaku said, Sasuke, Itachi, observe everything because one day one of you will be doing this, and his sons nodded. As Tsunade entered the room, the other clan heads said something along these lines. What is Lady Hokage all about? Danzo asks in a frustrated tone. This is very unconventional. In actuality, he hated Tsunade, and vice versa. There are some perplexed looks when Tsunade says, it's about this letter. She goes on to say, it's from Minato the fourth Hokage, and several people in the room gasp. When he died, everything that he owned should have gone to his wife and child. Sume Inuzuka, who was close friends with Kushina and lamented her passing, claims, but Tsunade, Kushina, and the baby died that day along with him. Perhaps Minato didn't know that they died, Hiyashi suggests. I mean, no one knows what happened to her, but there was no body, according to him. Shikaku, the father of Shikamaru's and the leader of the Nara clan, states, that wasn't the kind of man Minato was. His intellect rivaled mine, he knew they'd survive, he continues. Why haven't they come forward, though? I mean 18 years later. Surely she has moved on with the baby and are living somewhere else. Choji's father and Choza, the leader of the Akamichi clan, inquire. A few people gasp when Tsunade explains that Kushina has been living in this village for years using Minato's last name. because he was known by Yondaime Hokage, Sensei, and Yellow Flash. Only his students and teacher knew his true name because the records of the Hokage's names were destroyed when the building was destroyed during the attack. Alright, so who is her child if she has been going by his name? Fugaku asks, and Sakura gasps aloud after figuring things out. Her gasp draws attention, and she looks at Tsunade, who nods and smiles and says, her child is a boy. Named. She is interrupted by the door opening, and because of the outside room's brightness, all anyone can see is a silhouette of a figure that exactly resembles Minato's coat and all. Minato. As the light fades and Naruto emerges, shocking the room, Danzo says, getting to his feet. When it is revealed that Naruto is the second generation of Yellow Flash of the Leaf and the son of the fourth Hokage, he stands ready for the clan leaders and his friends to react, but almost instantly, like a fog, people start to notice the similarities between the two. Danzo asks, so how long were we supposed to be kept in the dark, Tsunade? Tsunade and Hiruzen Sarutobi were the only Hokages Danzo was associated with. Otherwise, he stayed at the Root Agency headquarters, but the son of perhaps the most well-known shinobi after the first Hokage Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha was sitting under his nose the entire time, not to mention that he was the boy who had the nine-tailed fox spirit sealed in him. Naruto was the ideal weapon, but he was now too old to be coerced into joining. This should have come up earlier rather than at the most convenient time for you, he says cynically. Was it kept a secret? Neji, one of the few who have figured it out, nods as Itachi asks while glancing at Tsunade and Sasuke, who both smirk and have figured it out long ago. Fugaku gets to his feet as Danzo says, if you knew about this, Itachi, you should have informed me and the council of this beforehand. I knew who Naruto was 5 years ago but neglected to tell you, Fugaku says, adding, so will you try to scold me for withholding information? I didn't realize that the leader of Root needed to know anything about shinobi outside his division. He finishes sitting down and asks, perhaps an old man like you should remember that his influence dwindled with Hiruzen's passing and you better remember your place. Hiyashi stands up and says, Fugaku, even though I agree with some of your points, the point he is making is that we should all have been informed of Minato's heir earlier, he says. As equals, he adds, but Sasuke interrupts. Equal? You and your clan elders treat your fellow clansmen like sheep and enslave them, and you declare equality? Sasuke spits out. Hiyashi glares at the boy as he says this. Fugaku gets up, but Itachi places his hand on his father's shoulder. Hiyashi smirks and says, know your place, brat. You can't just interrupt a clan leader. Besides, just because the Uchiha clan is so carefree with the Sharingan doesn't make you superior, just foolish. Itachi suggests, perhaps we can get back to the topic at hand, and Hiyashi and Fugaku take a seat. Lady Tsunade, I understand that this meeting is about the Namikaze compound and the royalties that the clans owe for using their equipment. Tsunade narrows her eyes suspiciously at Itachi as he asks, wanting to know the precise reason the meeting was called. Yes, each of you and your clans have used the weapons created by the Namikaze, however never paid for them. Tsunade responds. True, the Namikaze left the village when Minato died, but I feel they never did do business with us since we ripped them off, she continues. Danzo, who is given a glare by Naruto, concludes, those who left the village have no right to say what they own. Those weapons are property of the Leaf and those who left are traitors to the village. But Naruto never left, which means he does have the right to all the royalties in the clan's name. Tsunade responds. Now I didn't call you here to argue about it. Tsunade responds. I came so you can negotiate the arrangements of payment, she responds. Shikaku nods in agreement as Naruto takes the podium to say, I comply with this. The Nara clan will pay any debt it owes to Minato and his clan. I went around to this compound and saw it was in good condition considering being abandoned 18 years ago, Naruto says, drawing the room's attention as he speaks for the first time. Rather than go through the hassle of collecting payments, I want each of you to help with renovations in the compound so it can be used as a new district, he says, somewhat shocking everyone. Naruto, what are your plans? Itachi inquires, and Naruto takes a deep breath, indicating that the explanation will be lengthy. I've noticed that there are too many small apartments in the village that house big families, says Naruto. The houses in the Namikaze compound are perfect for families, which would also free up apartments for young couples starting out. He continues, not to mention the abandoned stores could be reopened for new young businesses and the big house on the hill could be turned into a rec center for youths to hang out and train with shinobi who volunteer, enthusiastically. The statement, this is a good idea, Naruto, from Counselor Kaharu Udatane surprised Tsunade because it offered a positive perspective on something she was not aware of. However, why not do it yourself using the royalties? That was the response Tsunade anticipated from a council member when the other council member, Homura Mitokado asked. Naruto smirks and says, imagine what an 18-year-old would do with that kind of money. Tsunade laughs as he adds, that would be a 1-week hangover. Itachi and Sasuke smile and nod when Fugaku says, the Uchiha and police force will aid in any way we can. Hiyashi says, the Hyuga will also aid any way we can, so as not to appear self-centered in front of the counselors. Shikaku says, as will the Nara, and Shikamaru grins and nods as they meet eyes. Shoza laughs and pats Choji on the back, saying, the Akamichi clan have a few strong men to aid in the construction. Sume and Kiba's older sister Hana smirk together as they say, the women of the Inuzuka will show you Akamichi men what real strength is. Kiba can help too, Sume continues, to which Kiba sighs. All right, are you in favor of Naruto's plan? After whispering something to the council members, Tsunade asks and gets a nod from the elders. Good, then I see no reason to drag this meeting on, she says, noticing Danzo staring at her. The room disappears, leaving the four of them alone. Tsunade a word, says Danzo, and Tsunade nods but sighs in her head. It's safe to assume that Naruto is the boy with the 9 tails sealed within him since he is Minato's child, right? Then why wasn't he sent to Root when he was old enough, as we agreed? He asks, and Tsunade nods. May I ask? He asks. Danzo, I wasn't Hokage when this agreement was made. Tsunade responds. And according to Kushina, he was trained by her and his uncle, she continues. The important thing now isn't about controlling the boy but containing him, Homura states. I have heard that 3 Jinchuriki have been captured by a secret organization, he clarifies. What if the Mist Village is building up on tailed beasts to start a war, he replies. She adds, after all, he holds a grudge against the Leaf for what happened between his mentor the second Tsuchikage and Madara all those years ago. Kaharu responds, I did hear that the new Mizukage is quite anxious to leave her mark on the world. She is referring to the time he and the previous Tsuchikage came to the village to sign a peace treaty, but instead fought Madara, who wanted them in their village to serve the Leaf. I highly doubt that a village is behind this, Tsunade chews on her thumb. Rather I think someone intends to sell these monsters. She responds. In any case Naruto is 18 years old and the son of the 4th Hokage. She responds, he has mastered every jutsu his father left behind, which means he is strong enough to protect himself. She responds. He is also worthy to be promoted to the Junin rank along with every one of those kids in Theat room tonight, she continues. Knowing that it was too late to try to change the boy's life now, given all the allies he had unwittingly made out of the clan leaders, the counselors sigh and say, fine. Promote him. And the others. Grunting, irritated, Danzo left the room, followed by the counselors and Tsunade. Naruto and the others outside Sume and Hana depart to go to the kennels after the clan heads left their children who were eager to talk to Naruto, who appeared to be prepared to disappear. Shikaku pats the blonde on the shoulder and says, Naruto, I like this idea so I'll help in any way I can. He and Shoza then depart, while Fugaku and Itachi return to the Uchiha compound and Hiyashi to the Hyuga compound. After glancing up and down at the blonde, Kiba remarks, I still can't believe you're the 4th Hokage's son. But now that I look at you and him, you do look alike, he adds. When Choji says, yeah, and all your jutsu does remind me of the stories my dad told me about the 4th. Sakura approaches her boyfriend as he is about to run and stops him, deciding it would be best to end the conversation. Rock Lee remarks passionately, I am not surprised. Someone like Naruto is exactly the kind of person to be Hokage, and now that it's in his blood I am even more sure he is destined for the position. As Sasuke stands between them and Naruto, Naruto begins to perspire at the fate Lee believes. Thanks, Lee, he says. Sasuke looks at the blonde and says, enough about this. I'm more interested in the compound. Why refuse the money? May I ask? He asks. Besides, it would be like taking money from you guys, Naruto adds candidly, drawing a few smiles. I don't know. It was a lot of money for me to handle and it would make me feel selfish. Besides, the compound renovation is the perfect plan, he adds. True. I just wish you would have told me in Tenten since we may have gotten a better deal on our place, Neji laughs. Tenten gives Neji a hug on the arm and continues, or a better place to begin with. When do the renovations begin? Do you mind? She asks. Naruto responds, yawning slightly before hearing his stomach growl. I still need to go into those details with Tsunade, but I hope as soon as possible. Anyone want to grab a bite to eat? May I ask? He asks. Lee bows and says, I have to train with Gai-sensei, before he runs off. Perhaps another time, he adds. Before departing, Ino kisses Sasuke and says, sorry, Naruto, but my mom needs me to help with stock at the shop. Kiba takes Hinata's hand and says, "We'll catch you later, but we have reservations at a restaurant for our date. Goodbye, Naruto." As she and Kiba leave, Hinata hesitantly waves, "Goodbye, everyone." Tenten and Neji leave for their apartment after she says, "Me and Neji are having a home-cooked meal." Sasuke declares, "I'm free," deciding to grab some food before going home. "Me too." Shikamaru nods, and Choji nods, too, wanting to accompany his best friend. Sakura kisses his cheek and leaves the four boys alone, saying, "I can't, I'm needed at the hospital." Ichiraku's. After a bottle of sake and a few bowls of ramen, Shikamaru and Choji left for home because they had a mission tomorrow. After they left, Sasuke looked at Naruto. Naruto suggests, and the others nod. Since they are all old enough to drink sake now that he is 18, this will be the first of many boys' nights out. "Hey, do you believe that getting married at the age of 18 is too young?" Naruto looks at Sasuke as he asks, and a faint pink tint appears on his cheeks. This could be the sake's effect. Naruto confesses, "I never really thought about it. I don't know. Why do you want to get married?" Sasuke smirks as he asks. He finally ups the blonde and says, "I don't think about you in that way." Perhaps it was the alcohol, but Naruto walked right. As Sasuke growls, Naruto smirks and responds, "I suppose besides if we did many people would think I was lowering my standards." "I've been thinking about it," Sasuke acknowledges, returning to the topic. "And Ino and my mom have been planning the wedding for months," he adds, laughing because he still has it and was enjoying watching Ino and his mother search for it. Naruto says earnestly, "If it feels right, then go for it. But maybe you should follow in Neji and Tenten's footsteps and move in together," he adds. Sasuke looks ahead thoughtfully before getting up and giving Naruto a shoulder pat. Naruto sighs, gets up, pays his share of the bill, and heads home after Sasuke says, "Thanks for the advice," leaving him alone to contemplate the future in which he and Sakura might get married. In the Sand Village the next day when Team Asuma from the Leaf reached the gates, Matsuri, a village genin, welcomed them. Matsuri bows courteously and says, "Greetings from Suna Leaf Shinobi. Lord Gaara has been expecting you for a while," she adds, adding that Team Asuma is running a day behind schedule because of a sandstorm. She nods before recalling something. "The weather delayed us," Asuma says. Takes to his office immediately. "One more thing," she says, not sure which Shikamaru she is referring to, but she instantly notices the black-haired teen Sai. Tamari wanted Shikamaru to meet her at the Chunin grounds to go over some final details, she adds. He looks at his teammates and says, "Fine." Before leaving, knowing where to go as Matsuri guides the others to Gaara. "I'll see you guys later," he adds. When Shikamaru gets there, he sees Tamari standing in front of the building entrance where the first stage will take place. He must admit that the sky gave her a golden glow, making her look stunning. She waved at him as he approached and he waved back. "What's up?" She blushes a little when he asks. "Nothing." She replies, "I just wanted to talk with you." She continues, "About our date," and he looks at her bewildered and shocked. She was truly embarrassed, but then she revealed, sounding more like herself, "Only joking. I need you to tell me how many genin are coming from your village," she says. "That's all?" He asks. 9 genin 3 Junin instructors, he asks, and she approaches and gives him a kiss, making him blush wildly before grinning and releasing the kiss. "Bye." She gives him a seductive wink before leaving the gaping-mouthed teenager by himself to watch her go. It takes him a few minutes to process what has happened and to gather his thoughts before he goes to the Kazecage's office. Returning to the Leaf after a few days when word got out that Naruto was the 4th son, a lot of people expressed their sympathy for a man who had passed away 18 years ago and asked if he would consider the role in the future. Soon, Naruto and Kushina started receiving gifts from the appreciative villagers and special offers from stores. Naturally, he was glad that his other secret remained a secret, and he was happy to be preparing his apprentices Konohamaru, Moegi, and Udon for the upcoming Chunin exams in a week. He had taught them the Shadow Clone Jutsu and greatly enhanced their Taijutsu, but Konohamaru demonstrated that he was capable of learning the Rasengan. You need to burst a water balloon by spinning the water inside in multiple directions at once using only your chakra, which emphasizes rotation, Naruto says as he starts to remove a water balloon from a basket. He illustrates this with the water balloon in his hand, which bursts after a few hours. Konohamaru is able to do this by using a clone to do the rotating of the chakra. Naruto-sensei, I succeeded. Naruto is taken aback by the title of sensei, but he accepts it gladly since he knows that Ebisu is nearby and furious. As he goes to the second basket and removes a rubber ball, Naruto pats Konohamaru on the head and says, "Well done. Now you need to burst a rubber ball," And since rubber is thicker and air is completely different from water, it will require you to use denser chakra to break it, Naruto says. The unprepared genin is startled when the rubber ball explodes as Naruto reiterates that this step emphasizes power. Naruto advises him to practice until he masters it after a few hours of failure, and by the next morning, Konohamaru had it mastered. If you can accomplish this final step you will have mastered the Rasengan, Naruto says, going to the third basket. However, Konohamaru knew what was next as Naruto took out a balloon filled with water. This will combine both step 1 and 2 by spinning chakra inside a balloon without moving the balloon itself. Emphasizing stability of the sphere shape, he explains, demonstrating, and once the water balloon exploded the complete Rasengan was in Naruto's hand as he pressed it against the tree, destroying it. This is a technique that my dad created and passed on to Jiraiya, which he passed on to me, and I now pass it on to you. He smiles knowing his protege could do it, and even though it took a few days he managed to accomplish it. During those few days Temari and Team Asuma returned. Temari needed Tsunade to fill out a form for the Chunin exams that would give the details of the participating genin. After Konohamaru left to show his uncle Asuma his new jutsu and Naruto promised to teach Moegi and Udon a unique jutsu, they left as Sakura approached. "You really are a great sensei," Sakura says, yanking Naruto out of his reverie as she embraces and kisses him. As Naruto stared at her, all he could think about was marrying her. Mr. and Mrs. Namikaze, he thought, and he loved the way it sounded. His words, "Thanks," lift her a little. "What's up?" Sakura motions for him to follow her as they walk side by side after he asks. Her explanation that the renovations of the compound are underway surprises Naruto, who had only reviewed the complete plans yesterday and had assumed it would take a few weeks before the work even began. Naruto remarks, "Wow, that was quick." Sakura nods and smiles as he sees him approaching them while holding a grocery bag in one hand and his copy of Makeout Tactics in the other. He looks up to see his students approaching him, and the tree stops as they all say, "Hey Kakashi-sensei." He closes his book and says, "Hey guys. What's going on? I haven't seen much of you lately," he says, looking at Naruto. He then reaches into his pocket and takes out a small box, saying, "Sorry, it's late, but I think you like it." He watches Naruto open the box, grinning, and takes out the 2 bells from the bell test. "Consider the torch passed from sensei to student," he says, glancing at Naruto. "Thanks, Kakashi." Naruto pockets them and says, "Maybe someday you'll see them in Obito's hand." He smirks, and Kakashi nods, grinning beneath his mask. Sakura subtly prods Naruto and gestures to the compound that is being renovated. Sakura excuses herself and leaves the 2 boys alone after saying, "Well, it was good seeing you Kakashi-sensei. Say hello to Rin-sensei and the twins for me." Kakashi is well aware of the details of the meeting regarding Naruto's parentage and the compound being renovated. In fact, he is hoping to buy a house there, but Tsunade told him to talk to Naruto about it since it's his land. "Kakashi-sensei, can I talk with you, Rin, and the twins?" asks Naruto, and he nods in confusion. Kakashi responds, "Yeah, that would be a good plan. Rin and I want to talk to you about something too." The 2 then head to Kakashi and Rin's apartment, where Hiro and Obito meet them. Naruto. Hiro says, happily hugging the blonde teen, while Obito walks over with his hand in his pockets and gives him a nod. Obito has taken a shine to Sasuke and tends to act like him a lot. "Did you have a good birthday?" He nods when she asks. The young girl giggles as she jumps up on her tiptoes and kisses him on the cheek. Obito. Naruto returns in the same cool way as he carries Hiro to the kitchen and places her on his lap when he sits down. "It was okay, I guess," he says with a fake pout. "I never did get my birthday kiss," he says in a fake deep sad tone. Kakashi sits down and says, "So Naruto, before you get to what you want about me and Rin, I need to ask you something. As you know, the family is getting bigger and we want to buy a bigger place," he starts, and Naruto nods. "Well, finding a suitable place on a single Junin's salary is hard, and with these new homes becoming available, I was hoping you could tell me what the estimate value for the properties will be. May I ask?" he asks. Though the twins are obviously completely unaware of such conversations, Naruto remarks, "Well, it's a brand new house so they will be pricey," after observing the dejected expressions on Rin and Kakashi's faces. "We understand that, Naruto, but it would help if we knew," Rin begins, but Naruto interrupts him by pulling 2 keys from his pocket and throwing them onto the table. As Kakashi and Rin stare at the keys, Naruto feigns defeat and says, "You talked me down, the place is yours." He lists the details, saying, "I saw it and thought of you guys, so I had keys made for the lock, so it's yours when it's finished. I had 5 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a kitchen, and standing living room area." Kakashi feels his pregnant wife staring into the back of his head as he says, "N. Naruto." You can't just give us a house for free. He grins and says, it was originally for me and my mom, but she's happy where she is and I'm not ready to move out yet, so it's yours. Kakashi then takes the keys and turns to face Naruto. Rin approaches to give the teenager a hug after he continues, that you. Naruto. It means the world to us. Does this imply that we're relocating? The twins ask simultaneously. In the meantime, outside of Suna the village's entrance is approached by two cloaked figures wearing straw hats with paper tassels and coats patterned with red clouds. The taller one says, relax Sasori, my man, in a composed, assured tone. He's only a child, so how hard can he be? The smaller man grunts irritably as he asks. He is a Jinchuriki in the Kazekage, so he will be very strong, the small man replies in an irritated tone, and if you go in acting all high and mighty then you're going to die Deidara. At this point, a white bird appears in a puff of smoke and the tall man climbs on, tossing his hat to the ground, revealing a man with slanted blue eyes and very long blonde hair that is worn in a half ponytail with the rest falling freely. He has mouths in each of his palms, indicating that he is a long-range fighter. As Sasori sighs, he says, I got this, and takes off. As he leaves town, Sasori complains, he better not keep me waiting. Ow, he grunts, looking up to see Gaara standing in front of him with his arms folded. How did you know? Deidara is flying around town as the sun sets, silently killing the lookouts so they don't give away his position and alert the village of his presence. He is then struck by a ball of sand, which sends him to the ground with a thud. He asks, inserting his hands into pouches and using the mouths in each palm to mold the clay. He wears a utility belt with the two bags underneath his cloak. The battle took place in the air as the villagers gathered to watch their Kazekage fight off the intruder. Kankuro was one of the spectators observing Gaara's every move and examining his appearance. There are no birds like that in this village, Gaara says as sand pours from his gourd surrounding him. Deidara focuses on long-range explosive animals made from his clay, but they are proving to be no match for Gaara's sand defense. As the sky grew darker, Deidara thought, I'm running low on clay. Had I known it would stretch out like this, I would have brought more clay, he says, continuing to formulate a plan. Man, I hate it when Sasori is right, I underestimated him. He pulls out a large clay doll and says, this is my specialty, tossing it, and the doll expands into a massive statue that will destroy the village if it detonates, he says, smirking as the smoke clears. Deidara is disappointed because Gaara was able to put up a sand shield, shielding the village from the blast. The crowd cheers, and Kankuro sighs in relief. As the battle goes on, Gaara crushes one of Deidara's arms, but retreats into a sphere of sand, which makes Deidara smile, I got you now. He says, a defense's biggest flaw is when you rely solely on it and doom yourself now succumb to my art because my art is an EXLOSION. As clay ants emerge from the sand. I knew you shield yourself like that so I had clay in my arm when you crushed it, he explains, as Gaara's eyes widen, realizing it's too late. As the sand sphere starts to collapse due to several explosions coming from inside, he says. Gaara. As his younger brother plummets from the sky, Kankuro yells, but he is safely ensnared by Deidara's bird's tail. Deidara grinned and said, come on, Kazekage. He flew off with the unconscious Gaara, saying, I'm taking you someplace fun. A defense's biggest flaw is when you rely solely on it and doom yourself now succumb to my art for my art, he says, as Gaara's eyes widen in realization that it is too late. I knew you shield yourself like that so I had clay in my arm when you crushed it. Is exposed. As the sand sphere starts to collapse due to several explosions coming from inside, he says. Gaara. As his younger brother plummets from the sky, Kankuro yells, but he is safely ensnared by Deidara's bird's tail. Deidara grins and says, come on, Kazekage. I'm taking you somewhere. He says, fun, and takes off with the unconscious Gaara. The man holding Gaara is pursued by Kankuro and a few other sand shinobi, but as they approach the entrance, a series of explosions trap all the shinobi nearby, including Kankuro, in the debris. Despite this, Kankuro continued to pursue until he saw a short man wearing the same robes as the one who had taken Gaara. Where is Gaara? Kankuro demands pointing at the man. Tell me. As he calls forth his puppets of the crow, ant, and salamander, he adds angrily. Kankuro's eyes enlarge as Sasori remarks, it's been a while since I looked at those models. But I have a busy schedule and don't have time to deal with a whelp like you, he says, turning to go. Not so quick. Kankuro yells sending his crow puppet charging at the cloaked man but a massive tail destroyed it then quickly disposed of the ant puppet as Kankuro jumps behind the protector of his salamander shield. I had a feeling. Kankuro says, you're Sasori of the red sand. he says, and Sasori gives an impressed chuckle as the tail which came from under his cloak shattered the shield and the point of the tail nicked Konkuro's chest. He broke through the salamander's defense so easily. Konkuro is thinking. Konkuro collapses to the ground, clutching his chest as his body goes numb, after he says, "Fighting me with my own creations is admirable but useless. I know all their weaknesses. But you have more pressing matters," Sasori says haughtily. "But when?" Konkuro adds huskily, poison. He realizes it must have been the nick he got when Salamander was broken, but the effect is almost immediate even though the nick hardly drew blood. Smugly observing its effects, Sasori declares, "A hybrid poison of my own creation. Slow at killing the victim as it makes sure you will suffer for days before succumbing to it," he explains as he starts to leave. "Consider it a lesson for facing me alone," he adds, as Konkuro makes a final stitch attempt and manages to obtain a piece of Sasori's face cloth. The statement, "At last attack from a dying fool," is made as Konkuro faints. Within the leaf, Tamari and Shikamaru sit at a shogi board, unaware of what has happened in the sand. Tamari is the first person, aside from his father, to defeat Shikamaru at the game. But Shikamaru's victories in the second, third, and fourth games suggest that he might have been courteous in the first game, about which she boasted. Now that the fifth game was going to be lost as well, she moved swiftly, pushing the board aside and jumping on Shikamaru, kissing him as he landed on his back. Shikamaru was taken by surprise and started to return the kiss, placing his left hand on the back of her neck and his right hand on her lower back while running his thumb through her hair. With saliva at the corner of her mouth and her tongue still slightly out of her mouth, Tamari broke the kiss after a few minutes. Both teenagers blush. "You'd do anything to avoid losing," Shikamaru says, gasping for air. "But if you truly wanted to avoid losing, you should have done that during the second game," he adds, and she smiles. Leaning back into Shikamaru's chest as he puts his arms around her, she says, "I'm glad to see you're okay with me kissing you. How was I supposed to know you were taking it easy on me the first time?" she asks, looking up at the night sky. "The moon is so big tonight," she adds, "and the sky is so clear." Shikamaru nods in agreement, though he would never say it aloud. He particularly enjoys performing menial tasks around the village as long as Tamari is with him. Since he was the heir to the Nara clan and she was the sister of the Kazekage and a top Junin, he knew their relationship was doomed. Speaking of rank, she asks in a tone that borders on teasing, "Any clues to when you will finally become Junin? I think Lady Tsunade is summoning us to her office tomorrow for just that," Shikamaru says, though only. Sasuke is in a hurry to become a Junin since he can't join the Konoha police force until he is, he explains. And Tamari looks confused, since the second Hokage established the Konoha police force they were only in charge of the village's law. However, it's expanded into several branches throughout the Land of Fire, with the one in the village acting like a headquarters. He begins, because of this most ANS ranked missions are handled by them. He continues, so the third passed a law that said only Junin rank shinobi would be eligible to join. However, until recently the police force only consisted of Uchiha. He continues, which was the reason the law was made, was because young Uchiha were being killed for their eyes. So the law was to let them become experienced and older, so they could defend themselves, he explains. The only Uchiha to join the police force at a young age was Itachi Uchiha, Sasuke's older brother, who broke the record at graduating the academy at the age of 7 and was a Junin at 11 inches, he says, and Temari's eyes widen slightly, imagining a shinobi that skilled in her lifetime. Of course, he wasn't in the force long before becoming an Anbu at 13, but he joined the force again about 4 years ago, he finishes. Shikamaru know this stuff due to some of his clan being a part of the Konoha police force. Shikamaru nods as she says, "Amazing. And Sasuke wants to keep up the tradition," she adds. Tamari laughs as Shikamaru responds, "Yeah, but when it comes to becoming a Junin, I wouldn't care if I never became a Junin." She says, "I'll bet," and they both laugh while gazing up at the night sky. In the meantime, as they pass a store, Sasuke and Ino stop as usual for a look at the window. "Ooh, those are really nice sandals," Ino remarks, and Sasuke raises an eyebrow in response. She asks her boyfriend, "Would I look good in those?" And he shrugs, making her pout. She nods and he says, "Oh, this is where I'm supposed to say, 'You look good in anything, Ino.'" She smiles, realizing that he means it and figuring he didn't need to say it for her to know too. "You know my mom and dad have gone away for the weekend if you feel like spending the night," she says as they walk away holding hands, and he nods. He may have promised his mother that he wouldn't do it until he was married, but he still likes to cuddle with her, especially when they sleep in their underwear. Kushina and Naruto are seated at their kitchen table on the opposite side of the city. Since her existence was made public by the clan leaders, She has spent more time with her best friends Makoto and Sume as well as her former student Hana, who was a student of Kushina prior to her death. She also formed a friendship with many of the mothers of Naruto's generation, forming the Allied Mothers Force. Naruto believed it was time to move out without feeling bad because of this. That's a big step, but I like her and you look good together, so I won't stop you. Kushina asks, so you have been looking at apartments for you and Sakura? Naruto nods and she smiles. You're growing up so fast, you're not my little boy anymore, she says, her eyes welling with tears. Naruto grinned as he prepared to give her a hug and said, Mom, I will always be your little boy. She exclaims with joy, ooh, the things I turn your room into. Which causes Naruto to topple over. Don't put your life on hold for me, Naruto. I'm content with the life I have and now I am reconnecting with old friends. She adds, you're young and in a serious relationship with a wonderful girl. She keeps going. Just don't forget about me but don't come to see me every day. She grumbles. Naruto gives her a hug. The subsequent morning on this particular day, Tsunade was confronted by Sasuke, Naruto, Shikamaru, Tenten, Rock Lee, Sakura, and Ino. Better missions, higher salaries, and greater respect would await them when they joined the village's elite group of Junin rank shinobi. You seem to know why you're here based on your faces, Tsunade says, observing their excited expressions. All right, let's get started. She goes on, Naruto Namikaze of the Namikaze clan. Do you swear to maintain the safety of this village and its residents and to instruct future generations to do the same? Naruto says, I swear on the honor of my clan, and Tsunade nods, grinning a little as she notices an unusually serious expression in his eyes. He nods. Then as Hokage I hereby promote to the rank of Junin, she says. You may be called to become a sensei in the near future. Sasuke Uchiha of the Uchiha clan. Do you swear to uphold the safety of this village and villagers and to guide future generations to do the same? She asks again. Tsunade nods in agreement as Sasuke declares, I swear on the honor of my clan. In contrast to Naruto, who Kakashi has insisted that become Obito's sensei, Sasuke has no immediate ties other than joining the police force. Then as Hokage I hereby promote you to the rank of Junin, she says. You may be called to become a sensei in the future, she adds. Shikamaru Nara of the Nara clan. Do you swear to uphold the safety of this village and villagers and to guide future generations to do the same? She asks again. Shikamaru responds, yeah, and Tsunade looks at him. I swear. Yeah, he adds, and Tsunade sighs. Shikamaru nods as she says, then as Hokage I hereby promote you to the rank of Junin. She also adds, you may be called to become a sensei in the future. Tenten, Rock Lee, Sakura Haruno, and Ino Yamanaka. Tsunade states, in the village there is a special rank of Junin known as Tokubetsu Junin. She goes on to explain, instead of having Junin level training in all around Junin, have Junin level ability in a specific area or skill. For example, Sakura has Junin level training in medical ninjutsu. She adds, to sum it up, Tokubetsu Junin are elite specialists in their areas and are often assigned as subordinates to regular Junin when their services are needed. I appoint 4 Tokubetsu Junin of the Hidden Leaf, she concludes, and while the 3 girls appear content, Rock Lee appears upset. It is evident that he wanted to become Junin like Sasuke, Naruto, Shikamaru, and Neji. With that settled, I think you should go and celeb. Shizune jumps in with a piece of paper, interrupting Tsunade. Shizune shouts, Lady Tsunade, something terrible has happened, as he displays the paper. When Tsunade exclaims, the cage has been kidnapped, the teenagers gasp a little. Sasuke, Naruto, and Sakura, she says, glancing at them. Get Kakashi and head to Suna to provide any aid you can, she says, and the 3 nod. Rock Lee, Tenten, Shikamaru, and Ino, you need to find Tamari and bring her safely back to Suna. She could be in danger, she says, and Shikamaru's face displays concern. Shikamaru explains, she mentioned that she needs to meet with a trader who supplies their village with tools. But it will take her a day longer to reach Suna, he adds, so if we find her we will be a day behind you guys. The teenagers depart the room to hastily get ready for the mission, and as they do so, Tsunade nervously bites the tip of her thumb. Shizune remarks, it's terrible, they finally found a new cage just for this to happen, but he notices that Tsunade is bothered by something else. What's wrong? She asks uneasily. Shizune appears perplexed as Tsunade concludes, the group known as the Akatsuki has surfaced. The kidnapper was wearing a black cloak with red cloud patterns. This indicates that they are pursuing tailed creatures, such as the 9 tails, she says, if the Akatsuki get him, they will kill him getting the 9 tails, after realizing, Lady Tsunade. You can't send Naruto on this mission. I know, but Naruto needs to face this threat just as much as we need to protect him. Tsunade says. If Naruto found out we were keeping information like this from him, he would feel betrayed. She continues. I have faith that Naruto will succeed, smiles. In the meantime, walking through the desert with Gaara as a prisoner, Sasori and Deidara say, so the Nine Tails Jinchuriki has surfaced. And that's why the leader has decided to make his move, Deidara adds, laughing a little. Without Orochimaru and his ring, it will take considerably longer to seal the remaining tailed beasts. Sasori explains in an emotionless tone, mentally cursing his ex partner. We have already sealed 3 of the 9, and this one will make 4. Sasori's thoughts are interrupted by Deidara's arrogant tone. Relax, my main man. It's all about to pay off, he smirks. Sasori adds, I hate to keep people waiting, and Deidara sighs. There is a sandstorm up ahead, so we will have to stop and wait until it passes, he says. With Shikamaru he knew Temari wouldn't be traveling quickly and that she only had a few hours ahead of him, so Shikamaru ran quickly out of the village in the hopes of catching up to her. After an hour of running at his fastest pace, he managed to catch up to her because she had stopped for tea and was unwinding when he ran to her. Shikamaru? She asks, perplexed. Do you really miss me? She smirks. Her smirk falls when she sees the worried look on his face. What's going on? She asks as she gets to her feet. She gasps when he says, it's Gaara, and he notices that her face changes to one of concern. He's been kidnapped, he says, adding, Lady Hokage is sending teams from the village to aid Suna, and I was sent to find you and travel with you to the village. How are things going for Kankuro and the others? She asks anxiously. Let's travel quickly, I have to get home, and Shikamaru nods. He wanted to reassure her, but he knew she wasn't the type of girl who still needed sympathy. He puts a hand on her shoulder and says, we will find him, Temari. She gives him a hopeful, soft look. In collaboration with Team 7, Tsunade wants me to wait for Guy and his team to assemble so I can fill them in on what's happening, Kakashi says as he approaches Sasuke, Naruto, and Sakura at the gate of the Leaf Village. Guy is returning from another mission and should be back in a few hours. I'll let you 3 decide who leads the mission, he says, turning around and walking away. Oh, he says, grinning under his mask. Congratulations on the promotions. Now get going, he says, disappearing, leaving the 3 alone. So, who would like to be in charge? I pick Sakura, Naruto asks, and Sasuke shrugs, giving him a brilliant idea. She gives him a nervous look, and Sasuke nods. All right, Sasuke replies. So, Sakura, what should we do first? He asks, and she ponders while scratching her chin. Before planning to track down Gaara's kidnappers, we should get to Suna, Sakura says. Naruto, could you teleport us to the closest location to Suna that you have marked? She asks, and he nods while taking a map out of his pocket that shows all the locations where he left a seal. Sakura nods as Naruto remarks, there's a clearing just before the desert that leads to Suna. If there isn't a sandstorm in the way, we might make it to the village by nightfall. Perfect, she replies, and then she and Sasuke exchange glances as she realizes that this will be their first time teleporting together. Calm down, I've done this before, Naruto says, and they give him a suspicious look. Okay, I haven't, but I just wanted to give you confidence, he says with a sheepish smile, and they sigh. Just trust me, I know I can do this, he says, and Sakura and Sasuke nod. Hold on to my coat, he instructs, and they do so. He then places a seal on their backs. Based on his father's notes, he was anxious as he made the hand sign. Hold on tight, he says as they leave the village in order to save the case cage. We should reach Suna before devising any strategy to find Gaara's kidnapper. Sakura asks, Naruto, could you teleport us to the closest location Suna you have marked? He nods and takes a map out of his pocket that shows all the locations he has sealed. Sakura nods as Naruto remarks, there's a clearing just before the desert that leads to Suna. If there isn't a sandstorm in the way, we might make it to the village by nightfall. Perfect, she replies, and then she and Sasuke exchange glances as she realizes that this will be their first time teleporting together. Calm down, I've done this before, Naruto says, and they give him a suspicious look. Okay, I haven't, but I just wanted to give you confidence, he says with a sheepish smile, and they sigh. Just trust me, I know I can do this, he says, and Sakura and Sasuke nod. Hold on to my coat, he instructs, and they do so. He then places a seal on their backs. Based on his father's notes, he was anxious as he made the hand sign. Hold on tight, he says as they leave the village in order to save the case cage. As Sakura gave Naruto a gentle back rub and Sasuke moved a little forward, Naruto panted with exhaustion as they appeared at the end of the forest. at the boundary between the land of fire and wind, in a flash of yellow. Sakura moves forward as Sasuke asks, "Are you able to travel, Naruto?" "Judging from where we are, I say we are about a day from Suna." She says, "No, he needs a rest. We'll stay here for an hour and then make our way to the village," she says in an authoritative manner. Naruto sighs and gives his girlfriend a joyful peck on the cheek. Sasuke sits down and murmurs to himself, "Yeah sure baby him, why don't you? Did Suna's letter mention what we may be up against?" he asks, and Sakura nods. "The attacker specializes in clay explosives," says Sakura. "He also hails from the village hidden in the stone," she continues. "Either way Gaara is in real trouble," she exclaims. Their eyes widen as Naruto says, "You don't know the half of it. You see, when a tailed beast is extracted from its Jinchuriku, the Jinchuriku dies," he says solemnly, "and they think, Jiraiya told me that so I would know the danger if they captured me." Knowing that they are unaware of the 9 tails sealed in him, he concludes by getting to his feet. After Sakura nods and Sasuke says, "Then we need to move now," he tells Naruto, "You're just going to have to work through the exhaustion," and the three of them dash into the desert. In the meantime, a purple-eyed hologram exclaims, "This seal has been altered. It is far stronger than we anticipated and for above the skill of an ordinary shinobi," he adds, adding, "It will take longer to crack." A hologram with a single Sharingan asks, "Whatever, right?" in a loose, silly manner. "The 9 of us should crack it no problem," he exclaims. "I admire your optimism, Toby, but if the boss man says otherwise then we should let him decide," a fresh hologram states. "So what will we do?" asks him. The purple-eyed hologram says, "We will capture him and seal them together." He fades away with the other holograms, leaving Deidara and Sasori alone. "My contacts in the Land of Fire say the Leaf has sent out teams to aid in the search of the Cage. One of the shinobi is the 9 Tails Jinchuriku." "So what now?" Deidara asks, glancing at the redhead who is unconscious. Sasori declares, "I hate to be kept waiting. Go out and capture the other Jinchuriku," he commands, and Deidara smiles. Deidara creates a clay bird and flies back towards Suna from the cave, saying, "Normally I'd say no, but an artist must always seek to improve himself." As he vanishes from view due to the intense sun, Deidara smirks to himself, "The 9 tail. The strongest, interesting." At Konoha, after sending his students off on their first mission as Junin, Kakashi believes they are finally standing where they belong as the village elite. He bumps into Itachi, who is wearing street clothes, and says, "Hello Itachi," in a casual manner. Itachi says, "Afternoon, Kakashi." He smiles and asks, "I assume you aren't going to Suna?" Kakashi shakes his head and responds, "The police force has sent over a few men to assist in tracking of the young Cage." Kakashi nods, appalled at the sheer number of shinobi Tsunade was sending, which included 7 Junin-class shinobi in the police, who could be ranked at best as Anbu. He asks, "Are you a proud teacher?" in reference to Sasuke, Naruto, and Sakura's promotions to Junin. However, since Suna and Konoha are allies, it would appear unprofessional not to send a powerful force. "I am," he replies. "They have deserved it for a while, so I am assuming Lady Tsunade was waiting for the business with the Namikaze compound to be handled before promoting them." He presumes. "Speaking of promotions, I heard you were a captain in the police force." Kakashi responds and Itachi giggles. Kakashi's eyes enlarge a little as Itachi responds, "Yes, I am assuming most of my father's activities due to his decrease in his health." Itachi continues, "It's nothing major, just old age finally catching up with him." Kakashi nods, and he bows courteously. "Good day, Kakashi. I'm going to see Anko." Kakashi says, "Take care, Itachi," and the two part ways. 2 minutes later, he runs into his longtime friend and rival Might Guy. "Hello Guy, how are you today?" he asks, waving coolly and casually, in Guy's eyes. "Getting slow in your old age? My team is probably already there," Guy smirks confidently. "I thought you were supposed to be leading your team to Suna to help them with the Cage?" he asks. Kakashi smirks lightly and remarks, "Considering they only left today and it takes 3 days to get to Suna unless you travel with Naruto, who is the fastest shinobi in the village who can cut the distance in half." However, even if it were teleporting, Lee couldn't even touch Naruto in speed while in his inner gates form. In response to Guy's initial query, he states, "I stayed behind so I wouldn't undermine their authority." As the two start to walk together, Guy chuckles and remarks, "I see, well, that is something you would do. I may not look it, but I feel old now like," Guy says, glancing down a little. Guy nods slightly, and Kakashi asks, "Like our days as the elites of the village have passed?" "There's nothing wrong with getting older, Guy." Kakashi then goes on, "Just think back to our days as young shinobi and be happy you got the chance to grow old. recalling his former teammate Obito who lost his life in the war. "I still wish I was able to instill my wisdom on my students," says Guy. "Gee, that makes me feel even older," he exclaims. Even though Guy is shocked by the word retire, he nods slightly when Kakashi says, "They've grown so fast, I could retire knowing the village will be safe with them." "Say, how about a competition?" Kakashi asks, gaining Guy's full attention. "All you can eat at Ichiraku with the loser paying the bill?" Kakashi suggests, and Guy smirks. Guy confidently says, "Thanks in advance for the free meals," as the two make their way to the ramen stand. Suna at night when they got to Sand Village, Sakura was working with Suna's counselor Chiyo, who had failed to find a cure for the poison and did not like Sakura taking over despite her greater medical expertise. Meanwhile, Naruto and Sasuke were walking around the village trying to establish a profile for the Akatsuki member who had broken in and taken Gaara. Once they thought they had enough evidence, they met up with Sakura, who had finally figured out the formula for the poison and created a cure that saved Kankuro's life. Sakura asks as she washes her hands, "So what did you find?" Naruto says, "The offender who broke into the village has slanted blue eyes and very long blonde hair that he wore drawn into a half ponytail with the rest hanging down freely. The bang hangs over his left eye, and he wears a black cloak with a red cloak pattern." Sasuke nods, and someone else gives him the same description. "Anything else?" she asks, relishing the opportunity to be in charge for once. According to the shinobi who brought Kankuro back to the hospital, there was another man outside. He was a short man with dark skin, dreadlock-like hair, and slouching as he moved. Sasuke relates. The name Sasori managed to draw attention from the room. "His name is Sasori," Kankuro coughs, sitting up a little. "He is a S-ranked criminal from Suna who left the village years ago," he says, "but he is still too weak to go on." Chiyo asserts that Sasori is possibly the best puppeteer the village has ever seen. However, he became cold and distant before he left the village. "Sasori, I can't believe you'd stoop this low," she murmurs, so as not to be heard by the foreign shinobi. After reading her lips, Sasuke asks, "I take it there is more you're not telling?" Chiyo glares but gives a small nod. Chiyo says, "Leave it to Uchiha to see and hear everything." She acknowledges that Sasori is her grandson. Sakura scratches her chin as Naruto asks, "So Sakura plans? We should wait for the other team to arrive as well as Shikamaru and Temari." Sakura responds, "But if we wait too long they could extract the beast before we get there." She continues, "How about me and Sasuke go on and Naruto can teleport the rest to our location?" And Naruto responds with a nod. The three nod, and Sasuke adds, "There's no point risking a sandstorm in the dark. Then let's go out in the morning. We should go to bed now and be off first thing at dawn," he says, and Sakura concurs. Sakura gives him a cheek kiss as Naruto and Sasuke nod and leave the room. "I think I will wander around the village for a while," he says. She smirks at his innocent smile and walks away, saying sternly, "Don't stay up too late. Your mother has given me orders to drag you to bed if necessary." He observes the villagers' mistrust of him as he walks, which makes sense given that a foreign shinobi abducted their beloved Kazekage and that they now have to deal with more foreign shinobi wandering around their village who are supposed to rescue them. Naruto saw a girl with medium-length brown hair, dark eyes, and fair skin, but he wasn't sure if they would find Gaara alive. She is dressed in a dark shirt and matching skirt, a Sanagakure flak jacket, black gloves, gray thigh, high stockings, and 2 arm guards. A black forehead protector is tied around her neck. Since Naruto had heard that the elders had forbidden Suna Shinobi and Kunoichi from searching for the missing Kazekage, she stopped in front of him with a serious expression on her face and asked, "Shouldn't you be out looking for Lord Gaara?" in an irritated tone. War might break out if other villages learned that the new Kazekage had been abducted because it would make Suna appear weak. She ignores his question and huffs at Naruto when he says, I didn't catch your name." Her words, "It's Matsuri," cause Naruto's eyes to dimly recognize the name. Naruto's sudden outburst, "Ah, that's right," startles her a little. "Gaara mentioned you during our last company mission," he says, and her eyes widen. She interrupts him. She asks, "Naruto Namikaze, right?" And he nods, assuming Gaara has already brought him up. He grins and she surmises that it must be a jutsu, which would account for their quick arrival. "Yeah. Well, we have more shinobi coming, so the 2 who I arrived with today are leaving at dawn while I stay behind to bring the others to their location," Naruto says, and she looks at him bewildered. "Let's just say I'm the fasted form of transportation," she says. She crosses her arms and says, "I see. I wish we could go, but the elders won't allow it." Naruto could see how much this girl loved Gaara, but he could also see how unprepared she was to be a kunoichi. Naruto says gravely, "Don't worry, we'll find him." "What's happened to him?" "Hits close to home with me," he adds, perplexing her. "Well, I'm off to bed," he says, turning around and walking away. He knows he had the motivation to find Gaara alive if he didn't have enough before, and he arrived at his room and fell asleep almost immediately. Dawn. "I think they would be heading for the land of rivers. Considering the direction they were going," Sasuke says, glancing at a map. "It's not too far and there are plenty of places to hide too." Sakura gave Naruto her final instructions, and they left the village as the sun rose. Sakura nods. Sakura says, "Then that's where we will begin searching for them," and the two leave. "This is the land of rivers," she hears Sasuke say as they stop searching for a trail to follow and come across a piece of black cloth with a red corner. A few more passes, and the sandy deserts give way to a meadow of fields and trees. Sasuke nods when she suggests, "A piece of the cloak they wear." When Sasuke senses chakra, he yells, "Get back!" and pushes Sakura away from a clay bird that explodes upon impact. "Means we are on the right track," he says. When they look up, they see Deidara standing atop a clay bird that resembles the one the Sand Shinobi described. "I think you found who you were looking for, Sasuke claims that his Sharingan is already active, saying, "You must be the Akatsuki who took Gaara." He introduces himself as Deidara, saying, "Sharingan huh?" The statement, "You must be a Uchiha," comes to mind before he smirks. Sakura was about to refuse his order, but she knew Sasuke would take care of it. "Uchiha Sasuke," Sasuke says, looking at her. "Go on ahead, I'll catch up." She nods and rushes forward, but she plans to find a nearby location in case Sasuke is hurt. Likely given that his opponent used exploding clay. Sasuke asks, "Where are you keeping the cage?" He says, "Someplace safe." "We are looking for another Jinchuriku," and Sasuke raises an eyebrow. He wears the standard Leaf Chunin outfit, Deidara explains, with a long fringe covering his right eye emerging over the headband and a black leaf headband underneath a bandana that reaches his shoulders. Sasuke's eyes widen. "They're pursuing Naruto," he thinks. "You won't get him," Sasuke says, using the summoning jutsu, and as a giant hawk launches itself into the air with a screech, he leaps onto its back. Deidara smirks and throws more bird clay bombs at Sasuke before making a hand sign that he notices. The clay birds come to life and start chasing Sasuke as he makes hand signs. "We will have to see about that." "Fireball jutsu in the fire style," he says, breathing out a massive ball of fire destroying the birds. Well, it stopped the birds, but they still detonated, which mean going by that hand sign those clay birds are earth style in origin, which means they are weak to lightning. Sasuke thinks seeing Deidara send bigger clay birds his way. Only one way to find out, he says as he forms the Chidori in his right hand. Chidori Senbon. He says, slashing his right hand to across the path of the clay birds as they fly towards him, causing small needles of lightning to stab the birds, which forces them to the ground. Got him. Sasuke think before they detonate from under him, causing the hawk he was riding to vanish and him to fall crashing to the ground. "Ah." At impact, he says once. "Clever try." Deidara smirks and says, "He almost got it on the second attack." He thinks nervously, remembering that the Sharingan copies hand signs that make the user aware of the element behind the jutsu, so Sasuke already knew his justice's weakness. Fortunately, he was able to activate the clay before the Chidori Senbon could deactivate them. Soon, the battle picked up with both of them using their most powerful techniques. Sasuke's lightning jutsu had disabled all of Deidara's weaker attempts to harm him, but they were able to drain his chakra. Deidara was also running low and knew he wouldn't be able to face the Nine Tails Jinchuriku, so he decided it was best to end the battle. He used a clay clone to distract Sasuke, but before he could, Sasuke had managed to remove his other arm, leaving him armless. The clay clone detonated, and Sasuke expected this to be his death, but instead found himself surrounded by Neji, Tenten, Rock Lee, and Sakura with a panting Naruto. "What happened?" Sasuke asks, gasping for air while clutching his blast, singed arm. "I teleported you away," Naruto continues. "I decided to teleport to Sakura to get the location, then went back to the village and went looking for Team Gaia to bring them here instead of waiting for them to come to the village. Then I went looking for you and brought you here." He clarifies, "It's left me drained, but it's nothing a power bar won't fix," he concludes. Neji activates his Byakugan and looks at the mountainous area, saying, "Now that I'm here, we should be able to find the cage. I see a cave. With 2 people in it," he says, concentrating. "It's the cage," he declares. Since Sasuke is hurt and Naruto is tired, Sakura says, "Let's head there now. You 3 go on ahead, I'll tend to Sasuke's arm and give Naruto a chance to rest." she says, and Neji nods, guiding his team forward. This means the other is the second Akatsuki member, Sasori. As Sakura starts the healing jutsu on his arm, Sasuke remarks, that Akatsuki member was strong. He even blew himself up trying to kill me, he continues, glancing at Naruto. I still can't believe he hid something like that from us, he muses. Sakura says, at least you're okay, pulling some bandages from her pack and carefully wrapping Uchiha's arm. Let's hope Neji, Lee, and Tenten can handle the other one, she adds, and Sasuke nods. In the meantime, Sasori sighs as the purple-eyed man's hologram emerges in the cave and declares, Deidara has been defeated. Sasori remarks, I knew he would pass away young. What's the matter now? He asks in a single voice. Leave the cage in the cave and get away from here. The purple-eyed hologram commands, there are 6 Junin. Level Leaf Ninja heading to you and I believe you are no match for them combined. He states, earning a frustrated grunt from Sasori. Without Deidara's ring it will just take longer to extract the tailed beast from the cage, not to mention they will more than likely track you down before you can reach the next base. He clarifies. Their main goal is the cage, so give him back and we will just secure him at a later stage, he says, disappearing. Young Cage, it's your lucky day. Maybe I'll add you to my collection later, he says as he exits the cave. When Team Guy arrives 2 minutes later, they discover the unconscious Cage by himself. As Lee moves toward Gaara, Tenten asks, are we too late? And Neji examines the body with his Byakugan. Neji exclaims joyfully as Sakura shows up with Sasuke and Naruto in tow, saying, no, he is alive, injured but alive. Neji searches outside the cave and remarks, I can't find the other Akatsuki member anywhere. Why just leave him? He asks. Naruto nods in agreement as Sasuke suggests, perhaps without Deidara he lacked the chakra to extract the one tail. Sakura gives the command, Naruto bring Gaara back to the village for a proper examination, and Naruto nods while cradling Gaara on his back. Naruto says, I'll come back for you guys, before disappearing and showing up at the hospital. An elder pulls him aside after he gets Gaara settled in a bed. He hands Naruto the envelope and says, Naruto, this letter came for you from Konoha. Naruto opens it and reads it. To Naruto Namikaze regarding the debt owed to the Namikaze clan. His Eminence has asked you to come to the capital to discuss payment in your new role in the Guardian Shinobi 12. On behalf of the Fire Daimyo himself, from the Fire Daimyo Advisor's Palace. Koga to Naruto Namikaze regarding the debt owed to the Namikaze clan. His Eminence has asked you to come to the capital to discuss payment in your new role in the Guardian Shinobi 12. On behalf of the Fire Daimyo himself, from the Fire Daimyo Advisor's Palace. Naruto was a little taken aback when he first saw that the letter was signed by Tsunade, who had appeared to be giving him the all-clear. He was also taken aback that the Fire Daimyo was offering him a place in the Guardian 12 and thought, I should head straight after the others return with Gaara. He turned to face the elder and said, hey, thanks for bringing this to me, before he left the blonde alone. A few hours later, the others returned to a happy village where everyone was applauding the people who had saved their precious cage. Kankuro and Tamari entered the room after the noise subsided, and they all gathered around Gaara's bed since he had finally woken up. As Tamari moves to the other side, Kankuro pats his brother on the shoulder and says, the elders have agreed to postpone the meeting till tomorrow. He smiles and says, they're glad to have you back. With a little glare from Gaara, who detested being referred to as a baby, she says, thank you all for everything you have done. If it weren't for you guys we would have lost our baby brother. Gaara asks inquisitively, when are you returning to Konoha? Not that we are in a hurry to get rid of you, he adds, so as not to come across as unappreciative of those who saved him. I need to make a full report for Lady Tsunade tomorrow, Sakura explains, and Gaara nods. The others stare at Naruto as he says, actually, I am going to the capital. The daimyo wants to meet about the renovations, he says, choosing to keep his comments about the Guardian 12 to himself. I am going in a few hours after I get something to eat, he explains. Shikamaru inquires, when did this come about? Naruto responds that he got a letter from the daimyo that was forwarded to him by Tsunade. Sakura says, okay, everyone get a day's rest and leave bright and early tomorrow. Everyone nods, with the exception of Naruto. Tenten says, Neji, let's find a souvenir before we leave, and Neji nods. They recently made the decision to purchase a memento for each mission they go on together, and Neji loved Tenten's reaction when they discovered the ideal item. Neji says, see you guys later, and Tenten waves as they leave the room. Sakura glances at Naruto, who was dragged aside by Sasuke, and considers how that might be them in the future. Sasuke looks around suspiciously and murmurs, we need to talk about something, adding, but it will have to wait until we get back to the village. What's this about Sasuke? Naruto whispers back, but the raven-haired teenager doesn't answer as he exits the room. He then notices that Shikamaru is gone, and Kankuro's cunning smile and the absence of Temari help him solve the puzzle. He asks, "Hey Sakura, hungry?" And she nods. Naruto turns to face Gaara and says, "Get some rest and try not to exert yourself." She smirks at Gaara's laugh and nods as they leave, and Matsuri enters, giving Naruto a grateful glance. As the two stroll down the village's main street, Sakura asks, "So where should we go?" They were given free food everywhere because they were known as the Cage's saviors. As Naruto cups her hand, she asks, "How about something simple like ramen?" "I have to admit that I miss Konoha," he says, adding, "and I hope my students are alright," referring to Konohamaru, Udon, and Moegi. "I'll leave it to team leader," he says, and she giggles. He smirks as she adds, "I think you will have a team of genin waiting for you once you return. Ebisu really hates you for stealing his team," she says, and he laughs. After Sakura gives Naruto a comforting squeeze, Naruto says, "Who knows what the future holds for the two of us?" The two then head to a ramen stand for lunch before Naruto departs for the capital of the Land of Fire. The next morning Sakura and Bar Sasuke stand outside the Cage Tower saying goodbye to the Sand siblings for the last time. Gaara notices the glances Shikamaru and Temari are exchanging but chooses to ignore them for the time being. As the three bow to the Leaf Team, Gaara says, "Thank you all again. Though I know words will never be enough to show how thankful I am for saving me and my brother," he continues. Sakura says, "Your gratitude is sufficient, Gaara. We are friends after all," she adds, or at least that's what Naruto would say. She smiles and shakes hands with Gaara. "You are welcome," she says. They're shocked to discover Sasuke shopping at a flower stand after searching the town for him after he disappeared from the group after getting ready. Sakura approaches and asks, "Sasuke? You weren't supposed to see this." Sasuke looks at them. Sasuke, who hates that he was just discovered to be a good boyfriend, says, Ino's mother asked me to pick up some native seeds from the village. So, are we leaving?" he asks, eager to get on with his life before they start making jokes. Sakura nods, and Sasuke joins the group. "Assuming you don't need to get Ino a new pair of panties," she says with a smirk as he goes pale, and the group laughs heartily at her joke as they make their way to the village entrance. Near the palace having never been to the capital before, Naruto arrived as dawn broke the night sky. He marked the enormous gate that led to the town, which made him think of home and how much he missed it. He was aware that turning down the fire daimyo might cause some backlash, but he didn't want to postpone his plans at home. When he reached the enormous gates leading to the palace, he presented the daimyo's official seal and was granted entry. Upon seeing the enormous stairwell, he groaned aloud, realizing that he ought to have taken a break at the inn. Following a strenuous ascent and a brief period of self-doubt regarding his appearance and level of fitness, he collected himself as he opened the door to the main hall where the daimyo held their meetings. He was observed by numerous applicants for Guardian Shinobi 12 positions, which must have meant he was the only one to receive a personal request to join. When Naruto looks at the thing-faced middle-aged man wearing the standard daimyo robes, or at least what he assumed they were, he exclaims, "Ah, the second-generation Yellow Flash has arrived." He says, "Glad to see you made it in one piece, my boy," in a friendly manner that surprises everyone. The daimyo grew up hearing about Naruto's father, the original Yellow Flash. Naruto bows respectfully and says, "Thank you, Lord Daimyo." He stands up straight and explains, "I came as soon as I received your letter." The daimyo says, "Konoha is almost 4 days by foot. You are faster than the rumors," he adds, grinning, and Naruto shakes his head. Naruto explains, "I was actually in Suna aided in the rescue of the Cage. So I was only a day," he continues, adding, "Thankfully the weather was good and I got here faster." He gets off topic when he says, "Your letter stated that you needed to discuss the payment owed my clan." The daimyo nods, "Ah yes. The Land of Fire owes your clan for supplying the tools during the Third World War, and I am glad to assist in the rejuvenation of their compound," he says. Naruto starts to question why he had to travel so far to hear the daimyo's happiness at helping him rebuild the Namikaze compound. Then he realized that this was all about him joining the Guarding 12. The Fire Daimyo obviously only wanted to persuade the blonde to join this time, but the Hokage had the authority to turn down the daimyo's request to send shinobi to the Guardian 12 if they were still needed in the village. However, if there was more to a public meeting than just the conscription, the Hokage would have to send the shinobi in question. Naruto's assumption is validated when the daimyo grins and says, "So with that out of the way, have you given my offer any thought about the position?" he asks. I have, Naruto says, nodding. It is a huge honor, but he looks away as he notices the Lord's abruptly serious expression. I have existing responsibilities in the village with the renovations and all, he says. You are a young man, so those responsibilities can definitely be put on hold, and for the renovations, I'm sure someone else can oversee them. The daimyo concludes, this is an opportunity of a lifetime. Not many shinobi from Konoha can say they have been in the Guardian 12, he says, adding, only one comes to mind. Asuma Sarutobi, the son of the third Hokage. Naruto recalls Shikamaru and Choji discussing Asuma's time as a member. Go back to Konoha and think really hard about what you want from life. Are you content with how your life is going, or if you want more? He says, and Naruto nod. Come back in a week with your answer, he says, dismissing the blonde shinobi, who disappears in a yellow flash, leaving everyone gasping. In the village, he teleported to Tsunade's office, which he used to do until he caught her and Jiraiya doing something. Needless to say, this made him stop teleporting into her office and made him feel uncomfortable around Jiraiya for a few weeks. Naruto appears atop the Hokage mountain. Perhaps teleporting in that way was a little too ostentatious, but he decided to give the daimyo what he wanted before declining. When he knocked on the door and heard Tsunade say, enter, he opened it to find Shizune leaving. She says, hey Naruto, welcome back. Naruto nods and smiles, and she is resolutely relieved that he is unharmed. After that, she shut the door, leaving Naruto and Tsunade alone. Good, it would be a shame to lose a fine young man like him, she asks, did you get my letter? Naruto nods in response. So did you make it? She asks. Naruto responds, yeah, I went straight there, which explains why he was the first to return. Are you okay with the idea of me joining the Guardian 12? He asks, surprising her because she assumed he would simply turn down the offer. Are you considering it? She asks, and Naruto shrugs. In reality, he had been about to say no until he reached her front door, but he changed his mind when he saw Shizune leave the office to complete her regular tasks for Tsunade. Then, when he saw all the typical paperwork on Tsunade's desk, he realized that the daimyo might have been correct. He is only 18 years old, and he is gradually committing to a job and a relationship that have made him forget that he truly wants to travel. She nods slightly, understanding his point of view. I am. Actually, he says, looking down a little. I just feel now is the best time for me to do it while I have no responsibilities here, he explains. Tsunade says, well, Naruto, if you want to do it, I will give you my permission. Naruto smiles a little, and she asks, so are you going to talk with everyone? He shakes his head. He smirks after she gives him a semi-glare, but her eyes quickly soften as she embraces Naruto. Just a few people, he says, turning to leave. If I do go, it'll be as soon as I'm finished talking, so in case I don't see you till then, goodbye for now, Granny Tsunade. As Danzo and the two counselors, Kaharu and Homura, enter, she breaks the hug and says, be safe. He nods and leaves the room. Tsunade glares at Danzo as he remarks, I see the container has returned. But why was he saying goodbye for now? He asks. It seems the Fire Daimyo has requested Naruto to join the Guardian Shinobi 12 inches. Tsunade continues, and Naruto has accepted the offer, she continues. Danzo exclaims, what? But quickly gathers himself. Why would you allow such a thing? He asks, adding, I mean considering what happened in Suna with their tailed beast. After Tsunade finishes, Danzo grudgingly departs. First off, I didn't allow anything. It was a personal invitation from the Fire Daimyo himself. Secondly, you have no authority on me, so I suggest you leave my office before I lose my patience, she says. Danzo may have overstepped himself, but he is right. Homura says, Naruto should stay in the village. And continues, the cage was taken by the Akatsuki, so Naruto need to be protected, according to him. Since Naruto can teleport, Tsunade says, I want to agree, but if I try and force Naruto to stay, then he will just vanish and probably never come back. Besides, Gaara was taken from his village, so perhaps if he stays on the move they won't be able to pin him down, she adds. She sighs and says, I see. Kaharu nods, it's a good plan. But he's also a growing boy looking for excitement and adventures, so let the boy go, she concludes, surprising Tsunade. He is the village's greatest asset and the fort's legacy. After taking a nervous breath, Naruto walks to Kakashi-sensei's house in the village. He knocks and Rin answers the door. Naruto, come in, she says softly, and Naruto nods as he enters. Naruto asks, hey Kakashi-sensei, and she nods, bringing him to the living room. Is Kakashi here? He asks, where are the twins? In their rooms. Kakashi exclaims, Obito, Hiro. Naruto is here. Then, As Hiro tackles Naruto and Obito pauses at the door to sit next to his father, the room trembles with the sound of feet rushing down and into the space. Hiro joyfully hugs Naruto as tightly as she can, saying, "Naruto, I missed you." Naruto pats her head. He says, "I missed you too," as she lets go of him and takes a seat next to Kakashi. Naruto nods in response to Kakashi's question, "So what's up, Naruto? Is Gaara alright?" "Yeah, luckily we managed to save him," Naruto responds. "Also, I will be going away for a while," adds. Rin enters the room and asks, "Oh, where to?" Naruto surprises Kakashi and Rin by saying, "To the capital. To join the Guardian Shinobi 12. Of course, this means I won't be Obito's sensei," he adds, sounding sad. Naruto looks at Obito after he says, "I can wait. I mean, I can stay in the academy until you come back," he explains, blushing slightly as Naruto lowers himself to eye level. "I only want you as my sensei, Naruto," he concludes. Naruto stands up and says, "I'm flattered, Obito. I'll be the best teacher I can be once I get back. I apologize for the hurried visit, but I need to tell my mom the news," he adds. Kakashi then gets to his feet. When they reach the door, Kakashi says, "I'll walk you out," and he asks, "So how did Sasuke and Sakura take the news?" Kakashi nods, "I'll tell them when they return," and Naruto concludes, "So goodbye for now." "They don't know yet," he says. "I wasn't sure if I was accepting the position or not," he explains. "So I wasn't going to tell them until I decided what to do." Naruto sits across from his mother Kushina at their home, reading a letter from Sora, who has moved to a new village and quit her job as a shinobi from the Leaf to work as a shopkeeper. "Well, if it makes him happy, why stop him?" Kushina responds. "Just like you wanting to join the Guardian 12 inches," she responds as she looks at her son. "To be honest, I am happy you are doing this," she acknowledges. "As much as I like Sakura and know how happy she makes you, I didn't want you settling down so fast," she continues. "This will be good for you both even if it's hard to see it now," she concludes. "Did you and Dad do something like this?" asks him. "I mean, we already spent time apart when I went off to train with the pervert," he continues. "Well, your father made it to Junin rank pretty fast, and would be sent on dangerous and important missions," she continues. "Sadly, I fell behind and spent more time teaching sealing techniques to students." She laughs. "Me and you father only started dating when we were around your age now," she continues. "And the world was so different back then and there was more stuff to do. It took a while to get our relationship solid enough to consider living together." She keeps going. "But we endured the challenges and ended up getting married and having you," she concludes. He concludes, "Okay, I think I understand," and she smiles. "So, me leaving is like a test to see if we will still feel the same way when I get back," he says, and she nods. "I get that. I mean, we have only ever dated each other, so it makes sense to see if what we have is real." She smirks at his side but kisses his cheek and says, "Well, then I'm going out to meet the ladies. Don't wait up and there's leftovers in the fridge if you're hungry," she adds as she leaves. As he makes his way to the refrigerator, Naruto muses, "Great, my mom has a more social life than I do." A few days later, after updating Tsunade on the mission's events, she told Sakura and Sasuke that Naruto had returned a few days ago and needed to talk to them. She also explained that Naruto was at Team 7's training ground covering for Ebisu, who was either ill or injured or something else she didn't know or care about. Either of the two. Naruto addresses the young Chunin group, saying, "Although ninjutsu is frequently regarded as a shinobi's greatest weapon, I believe taijutsu is vital in a shinobi's battle tactics." Naruto approaches Udon as he asks, "But how can taijutsu compare to the power of ninjutsu?" He asks the three young Chunin, "Could you dodge kunai and shuriken while performing hand signs?" And Udon shakes his head. "Ebisu won't always be around to cover up your mistakes, so now is the best time to hone as much as you can," he repeats. They hear the words, "Unless you have the reflexes of Uchiha, then you are unstoppable." From behind them, they see Sakura standing there grinning and Sasuke grinning, but Naruto's expression makes her smile disappear. As Naruto says, "Go practice your taijutsu," the group nods and rushes into the opening field. Sakura approaches her boyfriend and Sasuke, saying, "Lady Tsunade said you wanted to talk to us." "Yeah," Naruto replies, nodding. "Do you recall the letter I received from the Fire Daimyo?" "Well, there was more to it," he adds. "He wanted me to join the Guardian Shinobi 12. And I am accepting," he says, and Sakura's eyes enlarge. After some silence, Sasuke responds, "I see. When are you leaving?" he asks. He looks at Sakura, who is about to cry, and says, "Today." How could he have forgotten to bring this up until now? "I just want to go before I change my mind," is what she was wondering, and he acknowledges it. As the two shake hands, Sasuke remarks, "Well, good luck, Naruto." His grip was a little tight, and he was obviously upset as well, but he was able to hide it better than Sakura. "See ya around," Sasuke says, leaving the couple alone. He says, "Sakura, it's not that we're breaking up," but is taken aback when Sakura gives him the hardest possible face slap. "Don't lie," she yells angrily, "this is exactly what's happening. If you want to leave, fine, but don't try to play it off like the time you went with Jiraiya," she says, explaining that, "You don't know when you will be back. Hell, you could die out there." Before he can respond, "Obviously not," she yells, "Goodbye Naruto," and storms off, leaving Naruto standing there with a red print on his cheek. He wonders if he told them the wrong thing, and if it would have been better to just submit to a routine life. Whatever could have happened didn't matter. Naruto knew his time with Konoha was over for the time being. "I'll always love you," Naruto tells himself as he bids Sakura farewell, disappearing in a flash of yellow light. The palace, "Ah Naruto, welcome back," is the daimyo's warm greeting as Naruto enters the meeting hall through the palace door after teleporting back to the capital. "What can I do for you, or is this about my offer?" he asks expectantly at first, but he grins when he sees Naruto's eyes and knows the answer. "I accept, Lord Daimyo," Naruto says, lowering himself to his knees and promising the daimyo his life. "My power is for you to command," he concludes, his eyes solemn. The breakup has been a few days ago, and Sakura is still feeling the emotional pain. She has been spending the last few days in her room, ignoring her friends and her role. Looking at their Team 7 photo from when they were still genin, she thinks, "I hate him for leaving, but I miss him more." She concludes, "It's only a shame that aura vanished when you returned from that training trip with Jiraiya," adding in her mind, "I was just fooling myself because I wanted to be with you. But now I know you only want what you want," until someone knocks on the door. From the other side of the door, she hears the Hokage's voice saying, "It's Tsunade, open up." She quickly gets out of bed, checks the mirror for any tear streaks, and thankfully finds none, so she opens the door. "You have been ignoring your duties," Tsunade exclaims as she bursts into the room. Sakura says quietly, not wanting to discuss Naruto, "I'm sorry, my lady. I needed to clear my head because I was lost in my thoughts." Catching the pink-haired teen's attention, Tsunade says, "He will come back, Sakura." "Yes, I am aware that you broke up with him," she says, using the word loosely. "Naruto wanted to do this so when he came back he could fully commit to you 100%, she explains. Sakura confesses, shocking her mentor, "I know, but I don't want him to. Naruto has the skill and focus to do great things," she explains, looking down. "Things that could put him on the level of the first Hokage. But if I anchor him down, then he will be an ordinary shinobi," she concludes in a hushed tone, aware that her reasoning seemed preposterous, but it was how she felt. Suddenly she has a painful lump on the top of her head. As the Hokage punches her to the floor, "You idiot," she says, "every strong man needs an equally strong woman to keep him grounded." Tsunade states, "My grandfather often spoke of the similarities between him and Madara Uchiha." He begins, "They were born into a war-stricken world where the fighting never ended." She sits on Sakura's bed. Together they established Konoha in order to bring an end to the ceaseless fighting. She sighs. However, tension rose when a leader was to be chosen to command the village's path in the future. She says, glancing out the window, "Everyone knew my grandfather desired true peace while Madara desired control by domination. So Hashirama became the first Hokage." She stands back up. "He then met my grandmother Mito Uzumaki." She smiles. "She was a very calm and composed lady from what I remember about her, and always had this dignified air about her, and took her duty very seriously when she became the first nine-tailed Jinchuriku," she explains. "She also filled my grandfather with love and confidence and helped him with his destiny," she finishes. "Whatever happened to Madara, Lady Tsunade?" she inquires. "I was informed that he lost his life in the Battle of the Valley of End, but I was interested in the circumstances that preceded the conflict. After being overlooked as Hokage, Madara began to try and expand the village's territory by force and almost instigated a war between our village and the village hidden in the stone." Tsunade says, "The first Hokage put a stop to Madara's plans, and the Uchiha leader left the village disgraced." She states, "Madara came back a few times to seize control of the village, and each time he was defeated by my grandfather." Tsunade smirks, "Because each time he came back my grandfather had more he desired to protect," she explains, "while Madara closed himself off to everything but his goal of world domination, so he got weaker and he became more discouraged after losing time after time until his death at the valley," she finishes. "So do you see the fundamental difference between these two iconic shinobi?" Sakura nods in response to her question. All right, then let's go, she says as she exits her apprentice's room. It's time to finish your training, Tsunade says. What are you saying? Sakura asks. I thought we finished my training a year ago, adding that after Naruto returned from his training with Jiraiya, they had completely stopped training since their last session. In a sardonic yet all-knowing tone, Tsunade says, I don't recall telling you that I had taught you everything I know. And so long as Naruto was around I knew you'd put him ahead of your training, so I waited until he left again, she continues. I only stopped because once Naruto came back you reverted to girlfriend. So you were aware that Naruto would depart once more? How did you know? Sakura asks, and Tsunade nods. Tsunade stops dead in her tracks when she asks again. Naruto spent the first 7 years of his life alone and hated by this village for reasons not in his control. Tsunade explains. After that of course he would prefer to stay away from the village. She continues. Kushina refuses to tell me how she ended up surviving or even why she wasn't with Naruto from the start, but I feel it had something to do with Minato. She shrugs. Anyway, the reason I think you mean more to Naruto than you know. He hesitated on joining the Guardian is because of you, she explains. But it will be a good experience for him, she states. And you? She adds, glances over her shoulder as they continue to walk from her house. Don't try to grow up and start a family before you have a chance to live yourself, she explains. Though I guess I can't talk since I haven't had a real relationship since Dan, she says. Sakura remembers Tsunade telling her about how she loved Dan, then how he died in the war, which sparked her fear of blood. So maybe I'm just a jealous old hag, she says, and Sakura chuckles. As they leave, exit the front door, Tsunade growling. And Sakura holding her head. Anyway, it's time for you to learn my greatest technique, she says, using her thumb to point to the rhombus, like marking yin seal or strength of 100 seal. She says, this is the last thing I have left to teach you, and when you master it you will have surpassed me. She finishes, leaving Sakura in awe. But don't take it lightly because I have been training Shizune in this technique and she hasn't mastered it in almost 15 years, she says, and smirks upon seeing Sakura's shocked expression. In reality I don't. Shizune was ever meant to be my successor, she admits. Sakura, you have great chakra control. If there is one thing you surpass Naruto and Sasuke in, it's this. She begins. While they both have massive chakra reserves, it is wild and uncontrolled. While you have strong chakra and plenty of it, you also keep it calm and under perfect control, she explains. The time has come for you to finally stand beside Sasuke and Naruto as equals, she states proudly, and Sakura nods, ready to face whatever came next. Within the compound of Uchiha, in the field behind the Uchiha compound's main house, Sasuke and Itachi stood opposite each other, panting a little as the sun glinted on their perspiration. Ino, Anko, and Makoto sat in the shade, watching the boys train while sipping tea. Itachi remarks, Sasuke, you seem very focused today. Is that because Naruto is away with the Guardian 12? As he asks, Sasuke leaps forward, delivering a potent barrage of punches and high kicks. Between attacks, Sasuke declares, Naruto is following his own path to follow, and if it leads him from the village then so be it, he adds. I see, Itachi responds, deflecting his younger brother's blows. So you're not envious? He asks, and Sasuke pulls back to avoid Itachi's haymaker. No, says Sasuke without hesitation, I probably would have been if this had happened when we first became shinobi. He explains, but he looks at Ino and says, I'm happy with the way I am now, with a slight smile, to which Ino responds with a smile of her own. He is then struck in the side of his face with a punch that knocks him back. As Sasuke wipes the blood from his mouth, Itachi remarks, you let your guard down. Never fall for the enemy's taunts regardless if it's only training, he explains. Sasuke nods, and the two engage. Ino blushes as Anko remarks, Sasuke sure seems fond of you, blonde. I think romance takes Itachi out of his comfort zone, she says, glancing at her boyfriend, but it's cute when he tries, and Makoto laughs. Makoto swoons as Itachi and Sasuke sigh and shake their heads, saying, I never thought I'd see Itachi and Sasuke in relationships and that I would be sitting with their girlfriends. Being with Sasuke is like a dream come true, Ino reflects, recalling how Sasuke hated all the girls in school because they would follow him around and irritate him. She was no exception. In fact, she wouldn't be here now as Sasuke's 5-year girlfriend and his future roommate if it weren't for Naruto. Sasuke and Itachi, Uchiha, you are needed at the station. One of the ANBUs says, report immediately, and the other one finishes before disappearing in a cloud of smoke. Itachi says, let's go, Sasuke, and Sasuke nods as they rush to their girlfriends and give them cheek kisses while saying, I'll see you later. They then go inside to grab their headbands and jackets. In the woods while strolling through the Nara forest with Choji, Shikamaru spots an intruder deep among the trees. Shikamaru's father gave him the order to hunt them down and bring them in for questioning. "Are we near?" When Choji asks, Shikamaru nods and responds, "I wonder how Naruto is doing." Shikamaru shrugs. "He is one of the strongest shinobi in our village," Shikamaru says, adding, "I'm sure he's fine." The Akamichi nods. "I still wish he said goodbye to us all before running off like that, but I guess that's just how he is." He smiles and looks up, thinking, "Take care of yourself, Naruto." Choji adds in his own words, "Come back soon," but then a doe crashes into a tree and there's a roar from nearby. Shikamaru rushes to investigate, kneels down, and discovers a massive gash running the length of the body. Shikamaru pats the creature on the head and declares, "She's dead." He stands up to confront the creature that killed the deer, his eyes wide with surprise at the sight of a humanoid demon with orange-scaled skin and armor, a gray, tattered top, long, spiky blue hair, and 3 black eyes with yellow iris. It clings to its head and yells, "Pain! I need to stop the pain." It rushes at the 2 shinobi who avoid his blow. Choji exclaims, "Partial expansion jutsu," and his forearm and fist double in size. His enormous fist tries to connect, but the creature blocks it, then grabs the limb, lifts the large shinobi up, and sends him flying into a tree. As he looks down, a black shadow line leads back to Shikamaru, and he exclaims, "Pain," but is immobile. Shadow possession jutsu. Complete, he says, but it's obvious that he's having trouble holding the beast. See Choji knock it out. He grunts, and the Akamichi nods, expanding his fist to an even larger size, flattening the demon. Once it's knocked out, it turns back into a human with pale skin, short black hair, and a much thinner build than when he was in his original form. Shikamaru says, "Let's get him to Ibiki." Choji takes the man and slings him onto his shoulder, and the 2 of them return to the village with a lot of questions. Outside the village, somewhere else Team Guy and Team Kurenai embark on a joint mission to a village that is occupied by bandits led by a group of Junin. Since the Junin were using sensor shinobi to track down powerful shinobi, they were currently waiting for Rock Lee to return from scouting. This allowed Rock Lee to get close enough to pass for a regular person because his chakra only peaked when he released the inner gates. "So should we head to the capital and kick Naruto's ass for not saying goodbye to us?" Kiba jokes. He adds, adjusting his eyebrows with a smirk, "It's on the way back." Even though it was a joke that Kiba took seriously, Shino responds in his usual composed manner, "If you want to go to the capital, I'll gladly watch Naruto mop the floor with you." Kiba yells angrily, "Hey, I could kick his ass if I wanted to. Right, Hinata?" he says, seeking assistance from his girlfriend, who was occupied conversing with Neji, the leader of this mission. Neji sighs and says, "So your father said that, huh? Well, that's good. I guess tell him I said thanks," Neji says, and Hinata nods before returning to calm her boyfriend down, who was about to strangle Shino. Tenten, who is sitting next to her boyfriend, asks, "What was that about?" Holding her close, Neji says, "Just clan stuff. Nothing major," he adds, shifting the topic to, "I wonder how Naruto is." Tenten sounds resentful of the blonde for abandoning her friend. "He's fine, it's Sakura I'm worried about," she says. "I hope she is doing better," and Neji gives her a shoulder rub. "She is strong and will move past this," he says reassuringly, adding, "I just hope Naruto lives long enough to apologize to her." As Rock Lee shows up, Tenten smirks and Neji laughs, kissing her forehead and saying, "Damn right, because if I see him before then I will kill him." They all get to their feet. Neji asks, "Well, what did you see?" and Rock Lee sighs. "When I circled the town I saw 4 shinobi on each side." Lee starts. "Each must be a sensor and act as like an invisible force field." He keeps going. "But the problem is one of the shinobi has a Byakugan," he continues. Neji nods when Hinata asks, "One of the main branch shinobi went missing on a mission. Do you think he was killed?" "It seems likely, though it's only been a few days since then. It should take at least a week for transplants to settle, not to mention training to use them." Neji responds. "Are you sure?" Lee asks. "About the Byakugan user?" He clarifies. "Positive it's the only technique that could keep up with me," he says. "All of the sensors converged to where I was, but I managed to escape without being followed," according to him. Neji sighs and says, "But it also means they know we are coming. We will need to be cautious," he says. "We should split up and go in from 2 directions, dividing their forces and hopefully allow some of the townspeople time to escape," says Shino. Neji remarks, "Perhaps, but it might also get them killed in the crossfire." But Shino's strategy was actually the best one because it also made them less vulnerable to encirclement. He concludes, "But it is our best shot," and the group gets up to leave for the town. In the meantime, Naruto sighs as he sits in an empty room. This is the first time he has seen the space since joining the Guardian 12. He hasn't had time to settle in because he left right away on a mission. He is holding a photo of him and Sakura sitting across from one another, enjoying a meal on a date. It's been a year since that photo was taken, he thinks, tracing Sakura's face. She looked amazing that night. Though she always looks beautiful, he says, smiling, setting the photo down on the drawer. The restaurant was taking pictures of couples for publicity, and they gave the couples copies. It was a good picture of them. A female voice knocks on the door and says, "Namikaze, time for our assignment." Naruto gets out of bed and sighs, saying, "No rest for the weary, huh," before leaving the room. Returning to Konoha since all of his students had formally grown up and were moving on with their lives, Kakashi felt unnecessary as he sat in Ichiraku's eating ramen and reading his favorite book, Makeout Tactics. He attempted to take Obito out for some training, but his son is adamant about learning from Naruto. "You're back?" Kakashi says, a little taken aback, after feeling a pat on his shoulder and turning to face Jiraiya. "Yeah, I came to talk with Naruto, but it seems he's living in the capital now as a member of the Guardian Shinobi 12 inches, he replies. "Now I am hanging around since Tsunade wants to talk to me about something important. So I'm not going to like it," with a smirk. The two sit and discuss the recent events, including Naruto's solo departure and the kidnapping of Akatsuki and Gaara. Jiraiya adds, "And that's thanks to you," and Kakashi nods. "Don't worry about it, Kakashi. Minato would be proud of the man he is." Speaking of Sasuke and Sakura, Kakashi adds, "He has grown into a fine person. All of them have." He recalls Tsunade telling him, "They will be selecting the next genin teams and I am going to be a sensei for a new team." "I see, so that's what has you down," Jiraiya giggles. "How can any team compare to your last team of prodigies?" laughs he. "No. More like starting from scratch is the problem. I wanted more time with Naruto, Sasuke and Sakura, but time sped up on me," he says. "I just think my time as a sensei are over," he says. "I only had one team and that resulted with Minato surpassing my expectations in a month." Jiraiya responds, "But I wanted to teach him more," he continues. "But that's the problem when you get a prodigy in a team." He giggles. "All three of them were remarkable students of their crafts. What you need are 3 weak students that can benefit from your many years of experience." He, like always, say, "Where's the fun in training a prodigy?" He smirks and walks away, leaving Kakashi with. After 2 years, as the days stretched into weeks, weeks into months, and then 2 years went by with no word or indication of Naruto or his activities, but hints of him appeared in the underworld. The daimyo took pleasure in assigning Naruto these challenging assignments and witnessing the flawless outcomes. The other guardians didn't realize that Naruto was by himself when he told the daimyo that he would only be staying for a year, but he was persuaded to stay for 2 years. While many of them had friends and family in the capital, Naruto had no one. It's true that he could have teleported from the village, but he knew that he needed to stay away in order to fully commit to his responsibilities, or else he would never be able to fulfill his life's ambitions. While Sakura was storing up her chakra reserves to enormous levels, Tsunade determined that her time as Hokage was coming to an end. In the village, Tsunade had thought Sakura the way of the seal on her forehead. The counselors believed that the world had changed and that they had nothing more to offer the village's development, so they had made the decision to retire. Following this, Tsunade believed it was time for Danzo to resign. Despite his best efforts to refuse, he was ultimately removed, and Tsunade discovered that Danzo had been using the Anbu to watch and apprehend any child with special abilities, indoctrinating them into the route, and using them as tools for his command. Each of them also had a curse on their tongue to keep them from speaking about what he had done. An attempt to take over the village was another scheme that came to light. As a result, Danzo was arrested and his name was removed from the history books, making him non-existent. He was then exiled from the village, as it was thought that this punishment was more appropriate for a man who claimed that all of his actions were against the village he loved, which now viewed him as a traitor. A year later, he married Anko and the two welcomed their first child, a boy named Shisui Uchiha, named after Itachi's best friend who died while on a mission. Shortly after, Tsunade appointed her successor Itachi Uchiha as the Rokudame Hokage, the first Uchiha Hokage, which was a huge accomplishment for both the Uchiha prodigy and his. In addition to being his father's reflection and his grandparents' favorite, the baby Uchiha presented a challenge to Uncle Sasuke, who appeared to struggle with feeding, bathing, changing diapers, and even burping. Fortunately for Shisui, Ino was a natural, and the two grew close. Sasuke had risen to the rank of captain in the police force, working directly under his father after Itachi left. After they moved in together, he and Ino started talking about getting married, but she knew Sasuke was waiting for the right man to return home first. As the new leader of Root and chief of the Anbu, Kakashi relinquished his sensei position to Shikamaru. His methods were superior to Danzo's. Instead of pressuring students to join Root, he would administer an exam at the academy to talented students who volunteered for it, and as a result, Root has flourished. In addition, he had Might Guy as his second.in command. Kakashi and Rin welcomed their second son, Sakumo, after Kakashi's father, Sakumo Hitaki, 9 months after Naruto left the village. After Neji declined the opportunity to join Anbu, Tenten and Neji announced their engagement a year ago. Tenten had discovered her passion as a Fuinjutsu teacher at the academy and continued to go on missions whenever she could. Rock Lee discovered a student in the academy who appeared to be lacking in ninjutsu and genjutsu skills but wanted to prove himself, so Lee took him under his wing and started teaching him the power of taijutsu, and the young boy became a taijutsu prodigy. When Kiba was announced as the future head of the Inuzuka clan, Hinata was spared the fate of the clan's curse seal because he did not want to brand his own daughter Hiashi. Instead, he had an arranged marriage contract made between the two. Hinata was passed over as the future head of the Hyuga clan in favor of her sister Hanabi. After learning of Hiashi's true intentions, Kiba initially wanted to decline because he wanted to propose to Hinata in his own way. However, he agreed on the condition that Hinata and any children born with the Byakugan would not be cursed, and the elders of the Hyuga clan agreed that a bond between clans was a better deal. Because of the secrecy of his missions, Shino joined Anbu and lost most of his contact with his friends. Kakashi attempted to help him stay in touch but soon gave up, thinking Shino had his own motivations. The genin who weren't on Shikamaru's team would frequently attempt to obtain joint missions in order to learn from the Nara. Shoji was promoted to Junin and also became a sensei, and his teams would frequently be paired with Shikamaru's. Shikamaru became a fully fledged sensei and a very popular one at that. Although Ino was aware that she would eventually replace her father as a member of the interrogation squad, this put her at odds with Sasuke's father, Fugaku, who was very traditional. Sasuke assured her that he would support her in any choice she made, and he wanted Ino to retire and train to become a housewife like Makoto, who was a well-respected Junin in the village prior to Itachi's birth. Itachi knew that the issue would recur, but no one has been seen since the man Shikamaru and Choji captured in the Nara forest was revealed to be one of Orochimaru's experiments. Sakura was the most revered medical kunoichi because of her now completed training. She had authored numerous medical books with recipes for treating poisons and other ailments, and her time spent perfecting the strength of the 100 seal hand had significantly increased her physical strength, placing her on par with Tsunade. As we fast forward to the present, Sakura is seen walking down the street of Konoha on her way home from the hospital. Her appearance has changed significantly, and at the age of 21, her body has developed into a slim yet athletic appearance. She was now 5 feet 8 inches tall, half a foot taller. Her hair was longer than it had been when she was a genin, but now it was combed across her forehead, and her headband was still tied across the top of her head. She wore a pink undershirt that was tight, fitting and revealing her slender but well-defined arms, navy shorts that were a little longer than her usual ones, ending just above her knees, and the same sandals that she had previously worn, but they only reached halfway up her calf. Wore the same brown skirt, but also a belt that was tied to his hair and featured Naruto's lightning bolt accessory. In her spare time, she would constantly think about the blonde even though she had not received a single letter or other sign from him. Although she slapped and reprimanded him the last time she saw him, she knew that she loved him, and initially she didn't believe him when he said that he didn't want to end their relationship. For the past 2 years, Sakura had to watch all of her friends announce engagements while she grinned a hollow smile and detested life. She now hoped he meant it because she knew she needed to apologize, but he also needed to apologize for not speaking with her before making this decision. She turns around and thinks, Naruto, I hope you are okay wherever you are. Please, forgive me, she whispers to herself as she takes a step, realizing that she has been at the gate of the village for the past 2 years. Sakura, is said by a recognizable voice, which makes Sakura halt and gasp. Naruto, Sakura had to watch all of her friends announce engagements for the past 2 years while grinning apathetically and detesting life. She turns around and thinks, Naruto, I hope you are okay wherever you are. Please, forgive me, she whispers to herself as she takes a step, realizing that she has been at the gate of the village for the past 2 years. Sakura, is said by a recognizable voice, which makes Sakura halt and gasp. Naruto, her eyes were already welling with a mix of joy and sorrow when she turned around and saw a bouquet of roses. Naruto, are those for me? She asked inquisitively, and he nodded. Even though the type of flower I hate the most are? She smiled as she watched his face drop. He mumbles, roses, and she responds, and my favorite are, daffodil. His head drops, and she smiles as she gets a good look at the blonde, who hadn't grown at all. His outfit was the same, but he wore the guardian sash around his waist like Asuma sensei, and his hair was short and spiked like when he was a genin. She could tell he was in shape even though he had lost his lean appearance and grown somewhat bulkier. After letting go of the roses, he approaches her and remarks, "You look amazing. As beautiful as I remember," he continues, taking her hands gently. "Eh? Are we still boyfriend and girlfriend?" he asks, sounding anxious. Naruto Miles runs his fingers through her hair as she says, "Yes," hugging him and saying, "I'm so sorry for how I reacted," into his chest. She blushes when he says, "Sorry for leaving," kissing the top of her head. "But I am here for you, and you alone. So how about we go someplace and you can catch me up on what's new?" he suggests, and she nods. Despite the happy reunion, it was a little awkward as they walked together in silence, unsure of what to say because it has been 2 years since they last spoke or even saw one another. Sakura told him about all the changes with their friends, including the engagement of Kiba and Hinata, the Hokage and his wife's son, the living together of Sasuke and Ino, the engagement of Neji and Tenten, and the birth of Kakashi and Rin's new baby. Given that it hasn't even been 10 years since they became genin, Naruto smiles and says, "It is hard to believe all this change occurred in just 2 years. Makes me feel like a kid," he jokes, and she smiles. Since each of them is progressing to the next phase of their relationships, while hers and Naruto's are still uncertain, despite his claims that he will always be called upon for risky missions, perhaps he will join Anbu and vanish like Shino. She says, "I know," and looks ahead, secretly jealous of them all. After a pause, he says, "So Sasuke and Ino are living together. And thinking about marriage," he adds with a stiff laugh. "I didn't think he had it in him," he concludes. Sakura adds, "Everyone's growing up," in an attempt to gauge Sasuke's reaction, and Sasuke enjoys it too even if he pretends it is normal. "Ino has been over the moon since they moved in," she says. He says, "Well, good for them," and she sighs inwardly that she didn't get the answer she was hoping for. She wanted to hear, "During my time with the Guardian Shinobi I met a young married couple," but he adds, "looked final," which confuses her. "So what's new with you?" she asks, putting the conversation on hold for the moment. She was interested in learning about his experiences as a Guardian Shinobi. Sounding like a child with a new toy, he says, "It was amazing. I never felt so challenged and the missions were always S-class. I wish I could tell you about them but I am sworn to secrecy," he adds, and she nods in understanding. She nods when he says, "So what about you? I see you have the same thing on your forehead as Tsunade." He nods, and she responds, "Yeah. I just finished it a few days ago." She says, "I have mastered medical ninjutsu now," she says, choosing to brag a little. "Yeah, you look much stronger," he acknowledges, "and even more beautiful." He touches her cheek lightly with his right thumb, making her flush. She blurts out in embarrassment, "I see you cut your hair. I prefer your hair like that," she adds, trying to calm herself while he runs his fingers through his hair. With a casual, "Yeah," he adds, "I cut it because it was becoming a hassle." He looks up at the stars and says, "The big questions like, what mark will I leave on the world? Help me reflect on the person I am." He looks at her and says, "And that person is you." He smiles, and she does the same. "And who do I want beside me for everything, good and bad?" he asks. "What will you do now, then?" Curious, she inquires, "Are you visiting your mother?" He nods as she continues. "Yeah, I wish I could stay out but I need to let her know I am back," he says, and she nods. The two share a quick kiss, and although they both sense that their relationship is strained, the spark remained. He strolled through the deserted village streets, observing that nothing much had changed except for the Hokage mountain, which now has Itachi's head on it. "I wonder what will happen when they run out of room," he muses, smirking. When he reaches Kushina's, he knocks on the door. He still has a key, but he thought it might be better to knock, and his mother, who hasn't changed at all, answers. "Naruto. You're back," she says, drawing him into a strong embrace. She exclaims with joy as Naruto's face flushes. "Act. My back." When she finally releases her hold on him, Naruto thinks, "I'm home." He smiles at her, and she reciprocates, bringing him into the house to catch up. The next morning Naruto stood across from a sitting Itachi, the new Hokage, who was wearing the same Hokage robes as the third but without the hat that was hanging on a hook behind him. Unfortunately for him, his beloved wife needed a break from the baby, and with everyone else otherwise occupied, Shisui was in his office, which was normally his escape from parenthood, but now he was stuck. Itachi's appearance hasn't changed other than the bags under his eyes, which suggest he hasn't had much sleep lately. Nervously, Naruto exclaims, Congratulations," while Itachi sighs, gets to his feet, and removes his son from the crib. Itachi sits Shisui on his lap and shakes a bottle of formula before guiding it to the child's mouth and letting him do the rest. "So once you have your physical I can put you back on active duty," he says. To Itachi's surprise, Naruto confesses, "I was actually hoping to be a sensei. I promised Kakashi Sensei and Obito I would," he continues, scratching the back of his head. Itachi points to the top drawer of a filing cabinet and remarks, "Well, it so happens that there are a few prodigies graduating soon. Obito is among them," he adds, as Naruto hands him a folder. Itachi then hands it to Shisui, who appears to giggle cutely when his eyes meet the blonde's, who merely smiles before putting him in the crib and falling asleep almost immediately. His name is Kin Sakumo, a medic nin with advanced chakra control. He adds, and finally, Obito Hitaki, a 10-year-old prodigy who should have graduated years ago. Itachi smirks, recalling how Obito asked to remain in school as a means of helping slower students recover. Itachi slides 2 files over and says, "Her name is Yumiko Uchiha. She just turned 11 and is top of her class." "Perfect," Naruto replies, "I can work with these," and Itachi nods as Choji and Shikamaru enter, both of whom are taken aback to see the blonde again. In the 2 years that have gone by, Shikamaru's spiked ponytail has grown slightly, but not enough for those who see it frequently to notice, but Naruto could tell immediately. He also had chin stubble and a cigarette tucked behind his left ear, obviously emulating his sensei with the chain smoking. "Hey man, welcome home," he says smirkingly as he extends his hand to the blonde who shakes it. As he unexpectedly embraces the blonde, Choji remarks, "Wow, you look different." He had undoubtedly grown taller and bulkier, and although his hair was longer than Shikamaru's, it was difficult to tell unless you hadn't seen him in a while. Naruto responds, "Yeah, I just got back last night. I was just reporting in to the Hokage." "What have you been up to?" he asks, and the two explain that they are now senseis, and Naruto tells them about his new team. He then departs to go to the hospital for a physical, where he is shown to a room and seated, and after 10 minutes or so, Sakura arrives. "Can you remove your jacket and shirt, Naruto?" Sakura inquires while examining the file that was sent from the capital. When he is partially nude, Naruto's new tattoos stand out the most. He has the kanji for soup on his right shoulder and a 4 tattooed on his left pec, which Naruto explains was an inside joke among the Guardians. "Do I pass then?" After the test is over, Naruto smirks and asks, "Am I as flawless as you recall?" Sakura gladly complies when he leans in to ask for a kiss once more. "Yep," Sakura says with a smile while writing on a chart. "You're in excellent shape," she continues. "I have other patients now, but I'll stop by later, okay?" Before he watches her go, Naruto nods, zips up his jacket, and gives her another peck on the cheek. In the meantime, the primary name for them was Obito, their former teammate, whose name they gave their son. Kakashi and Rin stand side by side at the memorial stone that lists the names of all the shinobi who lost their lives during the Third Great Shinobi War. Rin cups Kakashi's hand tenderly and says, "It's hard to believe so much time has passed since that day. The village, the world has changed so much," she continues, and Kakashi nods. As they turn around and hear footsteps approaching, Sakura greets them. "I just hope he's in a better place," Kakashi says. Sakura grins sadly as she says, "Kakashi. Sensei, Rin. Sensei," knowing that this was a significant day for them but that she had to inform them of Naruto's return. "You should let Obito know since he's been dying for this day," she says, recalling how the young Hitaki would walk to the village gates every day for the past few weeks, thinking Naruto would return home on that day. "How is he doing now?" Knowing that he has seen his student, Kakashi inquires, "Is he happy?" "Are you happy?" Kakashi asks, and Sakura nods, blushing slightly. "Good to hear," he says, smiling and turning to face his wife. "I'm heading home," he says, and Rin gives him a cheek kiss before he leaves. Knowing her husband too well, Rin smiles slightly and says, "I assume you and him are still together. He must be searching for Naruto. So if you two are picking up where you left off?" she asks, and Sakura nods. As the two stroll through the town, she asks. Sakura acknowledges, "I don't know," adding that they haven't really discussed their relationship status other than the fact that they were still together. "I believe he mentioned he was staying with his mom for the time being but was looking for a place of his own," she says, recalling their conversation during his physical. "How about allowing him to live with you?" Sakura stops blushing for a moment when Rin makes this suggestion. "Come on. Why are you blushing?" "It's a good idea," Rin says, grinning and giggling at the medial nin's response. With a slight pout, Sakura looks to the ground and murmurs, "I don't know." Rin pats her head and gently brushes her former student's hair out of her face. Fine. I'll ask him, she mumbles. In the meantime, you aren't going to confess to me, are you? Naruto laughs. I have to admit, Sasuke, I never thought I'd be in such a romantic situation with you. Naruto had run into Sasuke in the park, and the young Uchiha wanted to talk about some things. Sasuke sighs as he asks. Sasuke hasn't changed in appearance overall. He now has the police force on his sleeve and the back of his Chunin jacket. He has also grown a little, and his skin has a slightly darker tone, which was probably caused by his outing with Ino. Naruto's eyes widen as he explains, I learned during the last mission we did before you left. I know the truth, Sasuke says bluntly, confusing the blonde. About your little pest, he adds, just in case they're being watched. Naruto nods. With a nod, Sasuke responds, so that's why they were waiting to seal the one tail. I have been tracking the Akatsuki and I've learned they have 5 of the tailed beasts, Naruto says, and I have also dealt with 2 members during my time with the Guardians, he continues, adding, Sasori, who was also a part of Gaara's capture, and a man named Kakuzu. Sasuke's eyes widen. Sasuke says, I assume they attempted to capture you, and Naruto adds, if they have 5, they will be aggressive in their pursuit of you in the cage. Sasuke smirks, I won't let my rival and best man be taken, and Naruto's eyes widen. I'm thinking about asking her to marry me, he says, but I don't know if I'm rushing it. He looks at his oldest friend and says, Naruto. My dad might be dying. He says, almost crying, it could happen at any moment, explaining, so, he concludes. There were a few moments of silence while Naruto considered his next words. I wish I could tell you I understand, but I don't, he says, acknowledging that he never really knew his father outside of the stories he had grown up hearing. But even so, I'm sorry to hear, he concludes, and Sasuke nods. Well, if you do decide to marry her, do it, but not for that reason, he says, and Sasuke looks at him. I mean, if you do, then every time you look at Ino all you will see is your dad and you'll come to hate her, he adds. If your marriage is associated with his dying. I guess. They halt their gruesome conversation when they notice Neji and Tenten approaching them without their knowledge. Neji is the first to glance in their direction, and his eyes widen as he gives his fiancée a small smile. She turns to face the blonde, who smiles broadly. Naruto. She runs to him, giving him a big hug. Naruto wraps a single arm around her, still smiling brightly. When did you get back? As Naruto and Neji shake hands, she asks, ending the embrace. Naruto responds, last night, just settling back in and letting everyone know, and then, oh, and congratulations on the engagement. Tenten smiles and proudly displays her ring, and Naruto chuckles, saying, looks like I timed my return perfectly. Neji says, we aren't getting married for another 6 months, and he gets a good, hard elbow to the ribs. I'm at 6 months until the greatest moment of my life, he says, sounding happier even though he is hunched over in pain. The scene in front of them makes both men perspire. Have you spoken to Sakura yet, Naruto? They all spend the next hour or so discussing new things in the village before Neji and Tenten part ways with Naruto and Sasuke. Tenten asks, and Naruto nods. He then explains that they are getting back together and that he will be a sensei in the coming days. When Naruto says, Sasuke, Sasuke looks at him and says, don't tell anyone about the 9 tails. I will. When the time is right, he concludes. Sasuke waves him off to return home to Ino, saying, okay, I'll trust you since it's your decision, but keep in mind that the Akatsuki will be here sooner rather than later. In the meantime, a hologram with black and purple ripple eyes tells a group of other holograms, so the 9 tails is home. One with a full yellow eye responds, yes, adding, he returned not too long ago. The same hologram produces a deeper tone. So, what ought we to do? Should we get him or the one tail? Asks a beady-eyed hologram, he inquires. A blue-eyed hologram says, we go for the 9 tails. I owe him for my partner, he continues by crossing his arms. I think we should go for the one tail. A hologram wearing a spiral mask states. I mean, the village hidden in the cloud will most likely have the 8 tail under heavy guard, and while the 9 tails is in the village with all those Sharingan users, they will be the hardest to get, he continues. Toby, stop talking. I don't care about the Uchiha clan. They will fall to my art, shouts the blue-eyed hologram. I declare, he says. The beady-eyed one smirks and asks, how quickly do you forget Deidara? The last time you went looking for the 9 tails, you were defeated by a single Uchiha brat, he says, and Deidara growls. So how will you defeat an entire clan, including one that has become Hokage? May I ask? He asks. Enough. The purple-eyed one puts an end to the argument. We will go after the 9 tails last, he says. Kisame, Tobi, and Deidara will go to the hidden cloud to retrieve the 8 tails while Hidan and Zetsu go for the 1 tail. He gives the order. Once we have them both we can lay siege to the hidden leaf village with all of the other tailed beasts as our weapon. The holograms fade as he concludes. In the meantime, their home sounded strange, like, I'll talk to you later, I need to pick some things up for dinner since my boyfriend is a picky eater. Or, my boyfriend is cooking us dinner tonight so I want to get home fast. Sakura was nervous because she had never done anything like this before and was blushing wildly in her head. Sakura wanted to bring Naruto over to ask him to move in. She plays out the scenarios in her mind as she thinks. So you currently reside here? Naruto inquires as he surveys the area. Sakura was one of the few who purchased a brand new apartment in the redeveloped Namikaze complex, and while it appeared to be a decent size, it was incredibly boring, with only a few pictures of her parents' team photo and a date photo hanging on the walls, which were still the same white paint job that the builder had done. She places a cup of tea in front of the blonde and says, yeah, I know it's not much, but I have been so focused on my work. What have you been engaged in lately? He asks inquisitively as he drinks the jasmine scented tea, which tastes fantastic even though he doesn't usually drink tea. Oh well, since I mastered Tsunade's best medical ninjutsu I have been studying the first Hokage's medical ninjutsu, she says. Naruto acknowledges that he was unaware that the first was a medic, but he was aware that the first possessed a wood-style Kekkei Genkei. With obvious admiration, Sakura declares, he was the strongest medical shinobi ever. He could heal anyone without weaving signs, she adds. I have been trying to create my own jutsu, she adds, and Naruto smiles. She stands up smiling and says, I know you will succeed. He suggests, perhaps while you're doing that I could paint your walls and help this place feel more like a home, which makes her a little more excited because it was the ideal icebreaker. She mumbles, about that, to get his attention as she enters the kitchen carrying the empty cups. I was thinking. You could move in, she says, avoiding eye contact because she is blushing so much that it makes her feel foolish. I mean, I know everyone else is going to the next level, but she no longer senses Naruto's arms encircling her shoulders from behind. Sakura. He murmurs. Marry me, W. What? She stammers out. Marry you. Sakura's eyes widen as she drops the cup of tea she was holding and leaps up from her seat, facing him directly, her eyes full of shock. Do you mind? She asks. Yeah, he says with a smile, but I don't mean now or anytime soon. But I want a verbal promise that you want to and will marry me someday, he says, explaining that, I can feel change coming and I want our relationship to be the one constant thing I have. She blushes. She leans in to kiss him and says, yes, I will marry you. He puts his arms around her and lifts her up a little. I love you, Naruto Namikaze, she says, sighing contentedly in his arms. He grins as she giggles, enjoying the sound of her future name. I love you too, Sakura, Haruno, Namikaze. So are you spending the night or? She asks. I think I should spend the night at mine, or my mum's, he replies. I haven't spent a lot of time with her so I think we'll have a mother-son day or something tomorrow, he says with a nod. She grins as she recalls how many tough boys sobbed last year while the girls were relieved of their suffering. Well, I have rounds tomorrow so I will be pretty busy, she says. It's injection day at the academy. Before he eventually returned home, they talked about other things that had happened during his absence for the next few hours. The next morning shinobi from Chunin and Junin levels had assembled on the roof of the Hokage Tower 12, including Shikamaru, Choji, Ino, and their sensei Asuma Sarutobi from Team 10. Shikamaru and Asuma were paired with Katetsu Higane and Azumo Kamizuki, while Ino and Choji were paired with Reido Namiyashi and Aoba Yamashiro. Asuma raises his hand and asks, what is it, Asuma? Itachi says, your mission is simple, as he stands in front of them. 2 members of the Akatsuki are in the land of fire and attack the fire temple, he explains. A temple monk approaches and says, they cut him down. Asuma's eyes widen a little as he adds, if they attacked the temple then they would have gone up against Shuriku of the 12 guardian ninja guards. Itachi places a comforting hand on the monk's shoulder and says, your objective is to capture or eliminate them. Why aren't you sending Naruto or Sasuke on this mission, Lord Hokage? Sasuke is already on his way there with the police force, Ino inquires. And Naruto is beginning his duties as a sensei, he adds, recalling that Tsunade and Jiraiya didn't think it would be a good idea to involve him with the Akatsuki any further until it was the last resort. You should leave now while the trail is hot, Itachi advises, and the 12 shinobi dispatch depart in different directions. Where should we go first, then? I think the temple is the best bet, Shikamaru responds, and Asuma nods in agreement. That's the safest bet to discover their motive for attacking the temple, he says as Kotetsu asks, and Shikamaru and Asuma exchange glances. The leaf walking down the street, Naruto spent the majority of the morning with Kushina at breakfast and went shopping with her. After discussing with Itachi the graduation exam he had planned, he was meeting his team at the school when he entered the room and noticed an older Obito sitting between Yumiko Uchiha and Kin Sakumo. Yumiko appeared enamored with Obito as she gave the young Hitaki the fangirl eyes, and Kin was reading a medical book written by Sakura. That must have been the book she was working on at the time, he thought as Obito looked at him. As the two others gaze at the blonde Junin, he leaps up and smiles. Naruto smirks and Obito smiles broadly. Anyway, you three meet me on the roof in 3 minutes, he says, disappearing in a flash of yellow. So cool. First things first, introductions, says Naruto, turning to face the three. Yumiko says, and Kin sighs, closing his book. Let's go, says Obito, and the three bolt from the room, where they find Naruto standing and gazing out at the village. How about you first so we get an idea of what to say? Kin asks, crossing his arms, and Naruto nods. Well, I'm Naruto Namikaze, son of the 4th Hokage, he starts, and the children turn to face the Hokage mountain and back. I'm a Junin level shinobi and a member of the new Guardian Shinobi 12, he adds, looking at the girl, whose eyes widen at the mention of her cousin's name. And my girlfriend wrote that book you were reading, he says, smirking at Kin as he flips the book over. I have other things I like and hate, but those are not worth telling, he concludes. With a laugh from Naruto, Obito introduces himself as, I'm Obito Hitaki, son of the copy Nin Kakashi Hitaki, sensei of Naruto Namikaze, Sakura Haruno, and Sasuke Uchiha. I like stuff. I guess ramen would be among the top, he answers, adding, I like ramen too. Yumiko screams, and Obito gives her a look that says, I'll never eat ramen again. I hate people who interrupt me, he says, and the girl sags. I like training and shogi and I hate losing, he adds. My dream is to be Hokage, he concludes. Being a little more cheerful than the Uchiha Naruto was accustomed to, Yumiko introduces herself as, I'm Yumiko Uchiha of Sergeant Hisagi Uchiha. I like training and hanging out with my friends and I dream of getting married to the person I love and making lots of babies, she says, blushing squealing, and Obito blushes. My name is Kin Sakumo and I am a medic, he continues. My dream is to surpass Hashirama Senju in medical skill. I like pork and hate sour foods. He responds with, 3 kids with goals for the future. Naruto beams. Naruto gives Obito an apologetic look and says, well, I wanted to start your training today but Lord Hokage needs me for a mission so we will have to start in 2 days when I get back. Obito nods in understanding because his father is also going on a mission. Before I can officially make you a team, I will need to test your abilities, so when I get back expect a test, so train hard, he explains, and the 3 nod. Now go on, get home, he says, and the nod disappears as Neji and Kakashi show up with a Tokubetsu Junin named Aoba Yamashiro. When Kakashi asks, Naruto nods and responds, yeah, I kind of feel bad that I can't start their training right away, though. He grins and says, Itachi told me you'd fill me in on the mission, before Aoba hands him a note and opens it. Naruto, Tsunade and Jiraiya wanted to keep you in the dark about the Akatsuki mission, but I think you're essential. Go to the Fire Temple and assist the teams I've already dispatched. Hidan and Kakuzu, members of the Akatsuki, recently attacked it. The group then heads out towards the temple after Naruto says, Kakuzu, I killed him a year ago, and Kakashi shrugs. Looks like you didn't, Neji smirks mockingly. Anyway, we should head out immediately, Aoba suggests, ending the banter. Team Asuma when they reach the temple, Sasuke and his group are packing up. Sasuke looks at them and then approaches, asking, so, what have you learned? Sasuke turns to Asuma as he asks. As he shows them the book he had in the office, Sasuke explains, it seems Chiriku has a high bounty on his head on the black market. According to the head monk, the 2 men are Akatsuki with weird powers that overcame Chiriku and then they carried him off. Naruto is in the book too, he adds, and it must have something to do with the Guardians, he shrugs. Which direction are they going? Shikamaru inquires. Well, there are 4 offices nearby. Sasuke responds, pointing to them, summoning jutsu. Invoking 4 hawks, Sasuke says, find the teams and use these to coordinate. Shikamaru nods, thanks, and as Team Asuma prepares to depart, he says, hold on. Asuma smiles and the elderly monk starts to say a prayer. I would like to offer you a prayer before you head into battle, he says, and they exchange glances. We would be honored. Kakuzu and Hidan Kakuzu growls, I thought the 9 tails had killed you for sure, and Hidan laughs. Man, I had no idea you were alive. He almost did, Kakuzu remarks, recalling their battle. If he hadn't fallen down that waterfall, he would have definitely died rather than losing that heart. In any case, he will be the hardest to catch, he says, adjusting Chiriku's corpse. Speaking of catches, we already have more than enough money, so why are we still bothering this guy? Kakuzu responds. Once we deal with this guy, we will recapture the 1 tail. Then the 6 tails, 8 tails, and finally then 9 tails. Hidan inquires, because unlike me, Sasori isn't coming back and all his resources have gone silent, so we need to build new ones and therefore need money. As Kakuzu growls in frustration, Hidan grins and says, cool, I'll be glad when this shit is over with. So what's up with the monk, is he worth a lot? Enough questions, we are almost there, he asks. Kakuzu responds. Team Asuma Katetsu jumps from tree branch to tree branch and says, we were able to contact the other teams and give them a rundown of the situation thanks to Sasuke's summon, so we should find these guys in no time. What do you mean? Shikamaru asks gravely, what happens when we do find them? Curious, Azumo asks. Well, these guys actively hunt tailed beasts and it's safe to assume they have some in their possession already, says Shikamaru. So they have to be strong. He keeps going. Sasuke said the one he in the case cage faced used explosive clay, he adds. Shikamaru nods, and Asuma smiles and says, don't worry, we'll be back playing shogi in no time. We can't make plans without knowing their strengths and weaknesses, he says, turning to face Shikamaru. The village Sakura nods and Itachi says, thank you for bringing me the updated student roster, Sakura. Given that the numbers from the first roster do not match the current ones, he asks, so this is how many students have dropped out already? When he says, okay, take these files to Iruka, Sakura responds, of course, Lord Hokage, as she hears the door fly open. When Sakura turns to leave, she sees Tsunade's face first. Itachi! She exclaims, punching the table. How dare you send Naruto out on this mission after we told you it was a bad idea? As Tsunade was ready to report, Itachi concluded his defense of his choice by saying, new intel was sent to me. One of the Akatsuki was identified as Kakuzu, he explains. Naruto faced this Akatsuki before and defeated him in battle, believing to have killed him. He nods, looking at Sakura, who is completely unaware of this information. But, okay then I guess it was the right call, she says, sighing. It's just they're after him too and I want him safe, she says. Naruto only found out before he left to meet his genin, he adds. Sakura nods. Sakura excuses herself by saying, okay, well, I will report when I'm done. As she was walking, she looked at some of the children playing in the street. The majority of them were dropouts who gave up when they realized it wasn't easy. She briefly considered giving up, but she was happy that she persisted because she now had her own book that the academy used to teach medical ninjutsu and antidotes. She was now as skilled as Tsunade, and most importantly, she had Naruto, her cherished boyfriend. She looked into an alley as she was walking and noticed something that chilled her. A little girl, no older than 7, was curled up by a trash can in the alley. As she entered, she knelt down and said, hello there, with a sweet tone. I'm Sakura. What's your name? She asks. In a soft, quiet voice, she says, it's Akira. I apologize if I'm in the way, she continues, adding, don't worry, you're not in my way. Sakura remarks, Akira is a beautiful name. So, Akira, why are you here alone? She asks. With tears in her eyes, Akira explains, I have nowhere else. My parents left me here a few weeks ago and never came back, she says. They call me a monster. Sakura is forced to suppress her own tears. Tell me, weren't you at the academy a few days ago? Sakura asks, and Akira nods. I can't do tea because nobody can teach me, Akira replies. Well, I can help you, Sakura says, and Akira's eyes give her the tiniest glimmer of hope. I'm a Junin medic and my friend is a member of the Guardian Shinobi 12, Sakura says, knowing Naruto will assist. So how about I take you to the hospital for an examination before bringing you to the academy? She suggests, and Akira nods, grinning, and holding out her hand to Sakura, who then helps her up. Alongside Kiba and Hinata ever since their engagement, Hiyashi has been preparing Hinata to become a housewife, but with the help of Kiba's mother Sume, a proud mother and shinobi, it appears that she won't be giving up just yet. The two lovers were sparring in a field. So have you found Shino yet? Hinata asks, and Kiba shakes his head. According to his dad, he hasn't been home since either, Kiba says, avoiding her gentle fist. I'm worried, like what if he's dead and nobody is telling us because it's against the ANBU's code or something? Kiba says, and Hinata's eyes widen without even considering that. Not that it is. Kiba responds quickly so as not to agitate her. We'll get him into a suit and as my best man before you know it, he says, cupping her chin and saying, I swear. He then kisses her, which she does, although she blushes, before pushing him on his ass. Hey, he pouts. She laughs as she helps him up, and Sume and Hiyashi look at the two in the distance. I admit. I'm glad to see her smile like that, Hiyashi says, explaining that, I've made it look like I hate her all her life, which is the furthest thing from the truth. Sume smirks and says, I just want her to be strong and safe. Sume says in an unexpectedly reassuring tone, and as a child she could never understand that but once she's older she will be thankful for it. I'm the same with Kiba. She adds, I want him to become the best clan head he can be, adding, especially with Hana not showing enough backbone for the role. But we will see how it goes when they are married, she says, grinning as she watches the couple leave. Hana has been a kunoichi for a longer period of time than Kiba has been a shinobi, but she was still Chunin while he was Tokubetsu Junin. Asuma team. When Asuma and Shikamaru landed outside one of the collector's offices, they saw a sitting Hidan waiting for his partner to emerge. Who the hell are you guys? He asks, standing up. Whatever, I'll just kill you. He smirks and runs towards them, but Katetsu and Azumo stab him. That's one down, Shikamaru smirks. Oh damn it, that hurts. All of their eyes widen when they see Hidan's cries of pain. Hey, don't twist it, asshole. He yells as Kakuzu emerges. It's all here, he says, looking at Asuma. Katetsu and Azumo retreat, joining Asuma and Shikamaru, and Hidan asks, which one? Hidan turns to his partner and says, Kakuzu, leave these guys to me. I want to use them in my ritual. He uses his blood to draw an equilateral circumscribed triangle or an upside down triangle in a circle. Is that guy immortal? Shikamaru asks, and Hidan laughs. You bet your soon-to-be dead ass I am, he says. Kakuzu's partner smirks as he says, okay, but keep the one with the sash like the monk in a recognizably state. The leaf Sakura completes checking on Akira in the hospital as Itachi and Tsunade walk in. I had no idea she was like him, Tsunade says, referring to Naruto, but she didn't name him because Sakura didn't know. As Sakura bows to Itachi, he remarks, well, it makes me wonder. Akira exclaims, wow, you two are on the mountain. Hokages, she adds excitedly, yes, I am Itachi, the current Hokage, and this is Tsunade, the former Hokage and my advisor. Itachi approaches the girl and pats her head, saying, tell me, Akira, how do you like Sakura? Itachi smiles as Tsunade approaches Sakura and asks, she's a Jinchuriku isn't she? Sakura responds, she's really nice, and Tsunade nods, she has the 6 tails. Tsunade tells her, I don't know how she got here, but the mist will come looking for her, and Tsunade responds, please don't make me go back there, they attack me. Akira interrupts the two and says, I want to stay with Sakura. Surprised, Sakura says, I want that too. Itachi and Tsunade nod, I guess for now that's a good a place as any. How about it, Lord Hokage, can she stay with me? Sakura asks. As Tsunade looks at her, Sakura muses, I wonder how Naruto will react to me living with a Jinchuriku. As Sakura leaves with Akira holding her hand, Tsunade remarks, Naruto is a really lucky guy. Perhaps Naruto will be able to help her, she says, turning to face Itachi. What's wrong? She asks. Tsunade nods, unaware of the tragedy that would befall the village, as Itachi explains, the 6 tails Jinchuriku was a man named Udakata. Did the mist switch hosts when the Akatsuki started hunting the tailed beasts? He asks. Let's just hope the next few days will give us some answers for these questions.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.